repeat offender from Northern Virginia. Louder would be better. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can adjust my speaker volume here. For some reason, we're not getting audio settings. Here we go. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can. Oh, that might help. Hold on a second. Is it better now? Okay. Yeah, somehow the mic volume got turned way the frick down. Hello, everybody. All right. So cool. We got off to a little bit of a rough start, but that's okay. Today, for those of you, again, just for my edification, how many of you is this your first time on a webinar with me? Just so I know. Go ahead and type it in the chat room if you're a first timer. And there's reasons why I'm asking this. Because our webinars, for those of you who are new to how we do things at NLP Power, are a little bit different than some of the standard webinars you might be used to. Okay, so Art Mail says first time. Linda Cummings says first time. Excellent. Robert the Carpenter, yep, first time listening in. Perfect. All right. And just so I know who's with us, how many veterans do we have on here? How many repeat offenders do we have? This one. Okay, watched a lot. Okay, cool. Now there's a reason that I'm asking that, because as we go through the process of today's class, and that's what today's class is. Even though we promoted this as, you know, webinar, and if you're like most people, when you've been on a webinar, guy stands up here and gives you all his credentials and all that cool stuff that you really don't give a shit about. Pardon me, I should warn you, if politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, or swearing offends you, this is probably not the best use of your afternoon. That being said, I'm going to teach you as much no-nonsense, hardcore stuff as I can. There will be an offer at the end of this presentation, as is our tradition. But my commitment to you, and I'm going to say this multiple times throughout the presentation, is to teach you something. My goal is for you to come away from this webinar with a handful of solid techniques that you can take out into the field right now and put to work. So I'm going to take you as far as I can in the time that I have. And I'm going to show you where to go to take the next step or get more information, if that's something that you're inclined to do. Is that a fair deal? Go ahead and type that in the chat room if you think that's a fair deal. Cool. Excellent. So here's how I intend to do this today. I'm going to go through my structured presentation, but this is your webinar. This is your time. And so there's a specific point at the webinar where I'm going to ask you, what do you want to learn most about today? And I'm going to take your questions into consideration and tailor and modify the content to answer the greatest cross set of those sections as possible. So again, you come away with something that's personal for you. Okay. So that being said, let me just go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let me just do my disclaimers first, so that you guys know. First of all, my name is Dr. David Snyder. I have a doctorate in Chinese medicine. Effectively, I'm thinking about doing another one in energetic medicine, but I haven't decided if I'm going to do that yet. It won't be nearly as rigorous as the one I just finished. This year I was voted the #1 NLP trainer in the world by globalgurus.com. And some of the course, I've authored over 15 different courses. I'm going to give you my full pedigree in just a minute because it's part of the presentation. But what I want to share with you is a couple of things. Again, like I said before, if politically incorrect language, swearing, colorful metaphors, or provocative language, or the word boobies for that matter, offends you, this is probably not going to be the best, most friendly webinar for you. If you prefer real world stuff, no bullshit, stuff you can take out into the world and just put to use right away, then you're in the right place. It's also not going to be a standard. But I get that most of you have constraints.
This is the most useless shit I've ever heard used in my life.
Okay, let's go ahead and mute people. Okay, let's go. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the basic presentation at a specific point in the presentation. I'm going to jump to the offer. I'm going to present what we've got coming up for you this year, and then I'm going to come back after the offer and I'm going to continue to teach. Does that make sense? And is that fair? So for those of you who have only blocked out 90 minutes for this webinar, you will know everything that is possible for me to teach you in those 90 minutes, plus the offer if you want to take advantage of it. And then I'm going to circle back. And for those of you who have a little bit more flexibility in your time, I know a lot of our folks in UK, they have to get up late, so I understand the time constraints. I'm going to continue to teach for a bit more, and I'll try to answer as many of your questions as I can. Is that cool? Is everybody kind of clear on my intentions for this webinar? Okay, there are some interactive parts. This means yes. This means no. There will be a test. This means I know the answer. This means I don't. This means, oh, I hope he doesn't call on me next. Okay, so that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get through the presentation as quickly as possible, and we'll go from there. And I don't like to use the presenter mode because it doesn't let me jump around as much. So can you all see my screen okay? Perfect. Excellent. So welcome to okay, that is not the webinar I wanted to open. Hold on a second. Nope, that's not the webinar I wanted to open. Hold on a second. Well, that's embarrassing. Okay, here we go. I think this is where we want to be. That's it. Okay. Let me try this again. All right. Well, welcome to Learn How to Build Irresistible Influence Charisma, a charisma that you can use to improve your relationships, your business, and your personal life. My name is David Snyder. And aside from the brief introduction I gave you earlier, who is Dr. David Snyder and why should I care? Well, first of all, like I said before, I have a doctorate from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine in Chinese acupuncture and Oriental medicine. I've been running a clinic in Solana Beach, California since 2005, where I specialize in treating physiological illness that is rooted in repressed emotion. I've authored in the past 3 years, I was voted one of the top 2 NLP trainers of the year by globalgurus.org. And this year, we were voted #1 NLP trainer in the world. My course, Killer Influence, was voted the #1 NLP training course by my peers this year as well. And as you can see, they've actually shown me who I was up against and all the runners up for the course of the year. I didn't even know that was a thing. I just got that letter by accident. I also have a 10th degree black belt in the martial arts. I have a 4th degree black belt in Shaolin Kun Tao, a 2nd degree black belt in Kosho Kempo Ryu, 1st degree black belt in Fanku Ryu Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a certified instructor in combat sistema, Cinco Mano Eskrima, and modern arnis. And what the hell does all these things have in common, and what does it have to do with human influence? 2 answers. First of all, pattern recognition and everything. The reason I say that is because every single thing that human beings do is a pattern. It has a structure to it. You have patterns of thought, patterns of behavior, patterns of emotional expression, patterns in verbiage. And when you understand these patterns and how they work within the human psyche, you can start to predict and influence human behavior in a very consistent and powerful way. And we're going to teach you in this webinar how to tap into some of those patterns and those thought structures so that people will want to do what you want them to do. Now, the question is this the right class for you? And when I say that, I don't say that out of, make this a little bigger. I don't say that out of trying to be flippant or anything, but there are some people who view any form of influence as somehow being malevolent. And the truth is, human beings are constantly influencing people in many, many ways. And by definition, the most important social skill, the most important survival skill that you can have is the ability to influence people and the willingness to do that. You can't avoid it, and if you don't understand it, you're going to become the target of it constantly. So this class is for you if you're interested in becoming super attractive to the opposite sex, and maybe even getting the ability to make them find you charming or fascinating or irresistible. If you're interested in banishing fear and insecurity from your life and radiating confidence, assertiveness, and power, make more money on your job, book more clients for your business, protect yourself from manipulation, and easily handle difficult people. This is probably one of the most understated yet most important aspects of persuasion and influence that we can discuss, primarily because the tools of influence, especially the ones that we're going to be talking about today, are very transparent. And what I mean by that is that if you don't understand how these processes work and how to do them yourself, it becomes dramatically more and more difficult for you to recognize them. And in a world where more and more people are gaining access to these tools, it is far more likely than ever before that you will be targeted by these. So whether you actually ever use these in the field for yourself or not, or you just want to learn them as a form of self-defense, this is probably going to be a very useful couple of hours for you. Okay. Let me go back to my PowerPoint, or I can, I'll share that. Okay. So if you'd like to have people thinking, feeling, and acting the way you want them to so that they naturally follow your lead, if you're do any kind of leading, or if you have a team or you're a team manager, this is a very important skill. The things I'm going to share with you today are directly applicable to that. If you'd like to program yourself to create massive financial abundance with more than enough money to buy the things you want, and then some of the language patterns that I'll be sharing with you, you can use to actually give yourself very powerful suggestions. But the skill sets we're going to be talking about are going to be focused primarily today on influencing social dynamics and social psychology, and how you can use those things to create more of a charismatic lifestyle for yourself. If you'd like to cause anyone to like and admire you, trust you, and even love you, we're going to talk about a special protocol today that can allow you to begin that process very, very powerfully and have them feeling tremendously connected to you, bordering on love, in as little as 20 minutes. If you'd like to nail job interviews, a job interview after job interview, even if you're not the best candidate, pay very special attention to some of the things I'm going to talk about and cover on the webinar today. If you'd like to learn how to inspire your children or your spouse or your employees to be more productive, or to take the trash out, or clean their bed, or clean their lawn, do their laundry or whatever, this is going to be very useful for parents as well. If you'd like to surround yourself with lots of new, trustworthy, and loyal friends, pay very special attention to the 3 magic questions protocol and the criteria and values or emotional bonding processes we're going to be talking about in today's webinar. If you'd like to be able to literally put someone under a spell that has them focused on you and hanging on your every word, even if you have zero knowledge of hypnosis, pay very close attention to what we're going to be sharing with you in this webinar today. These are some of the things that, again, many of my students and clients have shared with me that they would like to achieve over the years. If any of these apply to you, you're in the right place. Was there anything on this list that I didn't mention that you would like to know about? If that's true for you, if there's something else that I didn't cover that you'd like to get from today's webinar, please type that in the chat room. Let's see here. See here. He teaches patterns maybe here. That's okay. How closely does this align to the meta model from Bandler and Grindler? It's the inverse of the meta model. For those of you who don't understand what the meta model is, the meta model is an interviewing framework that is designed to unpack people's linguistic deletions, distortions, and generalizations so that you can pull out information that they may have lost during the process of thinking. Today is not going to be really so much about meta model. In fact, this should be something, what we're going to be doing is actually a little bit more useful in social dynamic interactions than the meta model is. In fact, if you do meta model improperly, you're usually going to wind up pissing people off, which is not what we're about today. Today is about learning how to create relationships of intimacy, trust, connection, chemistry, emotional bonding in a very, very compressed time. Is anybody, Chuck says he can't hear me. Is anybody else having trouble hearing me? So I'm speaking pretty loud. Volume's good? Okay. Must be an internet thing for you, Chuck. Well, do your best. If not, catch the replay. The volume should be much better. Okay. Is there anything else that people were asking about? Let's see here. Just scrolling back up. All right. So that being said, let's go back to our PowerPoint. One second. Oops. That's not what I wanted. So once, okay. All right, got about 95 people, share screen. All right. So here's my, like I said before, here's my personal promise to you. If you stay until the end of today's webinar, I'm going to teach you the most powerful and direct way to make people like, love, and trust you. I'm going to show you how to have people hanging on your every word, how to emotionally bond another human being to you, your product or your service, and make them literally want to do what you want them to do. Now, I'm going to teach you in the time I can how to do these things. These pieces are parts of a much larger system, which I'll talk about in a minute, called the Killer Influence and CPI systems. These are full conversational influence systems that I developed for me 30 some years ago. I developed them, like I said, most of the technologies I developed, I did not develop for the public at large. I developed them for me to help me get ahead in life. And I found out as I went through my journey in this life that many of the people that I encountered had similar problems to what I had. So these are some pieces, some very powerful pieces from a much more comprehensive system. And I'll show you where to go for more information on that as we proceed through the webinar. Hold on a second. So my question for you today is, what do you want to learn about? What is your biggest question that you'd like the answer to? If I haven't answered it or covered it in the previous little slide, go ahead and type that in the chat room. And we'll go ahead and I'll do my best to work those into the webinar as we go through today's training. Which brings us to the question, what is charisma anyway? If we look at, charisma means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But if we go to what the dictionary says, and I pulled this right off the internet, right off Oxford's dictionary website, charisma is defined as compelling attractiveness or charm that can inspire devotion in others, as in she enchanted her guests with her charisma. They can make people literally want to do what you want them to do. Another definition of charisma is called divinely conferred power or talent. Charismatic people are very good at persuading people and influencing them, but they do it in a way that doesn't come across as coercive. They do it in a way that kind of gives people a warm desire to please feeling, as opposed to a pressure to perform kind of a feeling, right? Think of somebody who stands over you with a gun and a stick versus somebody who just you just do things for because you like them and you want them to like you more. That's what charismatic people do. They can inspire people. Now that's a power that has a double-edged sword. It can be used for good. It can be used for evil. Certainly there have been many powerful, positive, and benevolent charismatic leaders in our world. Certainly there have been despots and people who have used the power of charisma malevolently. So this is a neutral tool, but it is not one that is specific to a select gifted few. The elements that make up charisma have been studied intensely for decades, if not centuries. And a lot of them go back to how you use your physical body and your neurology. And we're going to teach you some very powerful kind of behind the scenes approaches that allow people to feel that bond with you in a very, very short amount of time. Some of them are going to come across as ridiculously simple, and you're going to say to yourself, dude, that's just too obvious. That could never work. You don't have to believe a single thing that I'm going to teach you today. All you got to do is do it. They're mechanical processes. When you do them, you will get a consistent result. Okay. So let me just look here at the chat real quick. Overcome fear, connecting with personal power and influence to see in the world. Okay. How to use hypnosis to help people. One of the issues when I first joined on mobile was need to press join. Okay. Gonna use this on myself. Oh, okay. So I'm seeing a lot of people who are interested in like self-work. Is that what I'm kind of intuiting here? Type it in the chat if that's the case. You need to be much bolder. Okay, Neil says. Anything else? Don't be bashful, guys. This is your webinar. You tell me what you want, and I'll modify the content to make sure that you get it. Sphere of influence, please. Sphere of influence is a bit more advanced than this webinar is going to be able to cover. For those of you who wonder what Camille's talking about, sphere of influence is a physiologically driven distance rapport technique that combines your physical body, your imagination, and your intention to link with another person's neurology and prime them to behave and think about you in a certain way. It's based on our physiological state control modules that we teach in CPI and Killer Influence. Unfortunately, most of the people on this webinar don't have the prerequisites to learn that technique, so it's really not going to be helpful to cover it here. But if you were asking, influencing myself to get what I want, Does luminescence and the 4 tones have connection with killer influence? Not directly, Logan. Not directly. Although it is an extension or an adjunct or a parallel system to what we do with killer influence. It's an amplifier to killer influence, not much more. Let's see here. I need to believe it for it to apply, and it's very difficult to believe. Well, if you could do it and you didn't believe it, would that be okay? If you didn't believe it and it still worked, would that be okay? Right? Because again, sometimes in order for you to move forward, you have to do something you don't believe in and trust the mechanics of the process. If you're not willing to do that, then nothing on this webinar is going to help you simply because you're not doing it. People can send doubt. That's okay. Doubt's not a problem. Actually, about how to now. Yeah, we're actually gonna cover criterion values today. 1+. What book for intermediate level hypnosis would you suggest? Are you trying to do hypnotherapy or conversational hypnosis? Okay. All right. So let's jump into this. Okay. I'm gonna actually go to my my OneNote, and we're gonna talk about how to get maximum attention in minimum time. This is probably one of the most, actually, hold on a second. Let me go back to my PowerPoint and make sure that I'm still sharing. Okay. All right. So we talked about charisma. Now let's talk about something you guys I just mentioned, which is the CPI system. And the CPI system, what you're seeing in front of you, can you all see the diagram? Okay. What you're seeing is what we call the Universal Persuasion Protocol. This is a universal algorithm that we teach, and each of these layers: control your state, get rapport, use your language, manage their state, jump into their process, link to their criterion values. Each of those is literally a step that I'd say. Let me see if I can annotate this text box in here. Hold on a second. If somebody's not muted.
Gotta leave my earpods.
Hold on a second, guys. I gotta mute somebody. Sorry about that. I get distracted by external sounds. So, okay. So first and foremost, if you look at, oops, sorry about that. If you look at this particular model, control your state, get rapport, use your language, manage their state, jump into their process, link to their criterion values. That's literally what you would want to do in any situation or circumstance where, oh, I didn't share my screen on that, did I? On a second. People keep unmuting themselves or something here. Okay, very good. Okay, so let's go back to this. All right, so can you guys see that screen okay? So this is the first thing you want to do whenever you go into any persuasion interaction is you want to know your outcome. You've got to know what you want to achieve and how you're going to get there, okay? If you think of persuasion like a stormy sea where, you know, the waves are buffeting you one way, the wind is blowing your ship another way, but off in the distance you see a lighthouse. And as long as you can see that lighthouse, you can course correct. You can know how to change and modify what you're doing to get back on track. Most social interactions have that kind of a dynamic to them. Things come up and take the conversation in weird directions, and it's important to come in with an outcome. The outcomes don't need to be super complex. They need to have some, you need to know how, if you're getting closer to what you want or farther away from it, and how do you know that you're getting it. So NLP has some very comprehensive ways of defining outcomes. For functional work out in the field, it's important to just know what you want and have some benchmarks that let you know when you're getting there. The next thing you want to do before you enter an interaction is control your state. You must control your physiological state. State control in our world means the ability to enter or exit any psycho-emotional state at will, on demand. when you understand the physiological state control and the cognitive state control drills that are implicit in this level, 80% of your influence is done before you open your mouth. And it's a very important process. Control or state control is something that a lot of people talk about and they pay lip service to, but they don't actually teach you how and what to do. This particular webinar is focused on conversational work and the conversational applications for charismatic influence. And so everything I'm going to teach you in this webinar presupposes an understanding of physiological and cognitive state control. In other words, you have the ability to enter or exit any emotional state that you want on demand. Now, that being said, you do not have to have the full comprehensive state control modules that we teach in CPI and Killer Influence to apply these conversational methodologies right away. In fact, the only thing you need to do is have a playful, let's see what happens energy, a sincere desire to connect with people, and these things will work for you like gangbusters. They're mechanical processes. All you got to do is just happily engage in them without putting too much stress on yourself with it. Camille's asking, I have a question about state control. Do I get into that state that I want to be in or the state that I want them to be in? You always start with getting yourself in a state that is empowering for yourself first. And then as a strategy, you have to kind of predict or project onto your target or your subject what sequence of states they need to be in to want to do the thing you want them to do. It's neurological priming. It happens in the background. Much of the things that happen at the state control level are pre-conscious. In other words, they're processed by the proprioceptive neurology and your mirror neuron systems first, and it creates inside the person an environment that is primed to think and move along a certain emotional vector or direction. And the behaviors that arise from that emotion happen spontaneously, usually towards your outcome. So at the tactical or strategic level as an influencer, you need to start thinking about that. We call that state management, okay? But for right now, because we want you to just get out in the field and start putting these things to work right away, having an easygoing, fun, playful, let's just do this and see what happens energy is going to get you further faster. And it's going to create the experiences in you that lead to belief in the techniques. You don't need to believe in them first for you to use them. You just need to have a let's see what happens energy and a playfulness to you and go out and just use these with people. And you're going to surprise yourself very, very quickly, because when you realize what I'm about to share with you is that the methods that we're going to be teaching with you are actually the way people are actually primed and programmed to want to be communicated with. These techniques are actually the most neurologically desirable and compatible ways of communicating with another human being. Okay. It doesn't have to make sense right now. I probably won't have time to do a deep treatment into every single one. I have three solid, hardcore things that I wanted to share with you today. I can probably go deep dish into one, maybe two of them, and give you a light treatment of the third one and still keep the webinar within a manageable time frame. But the things that I'm going to share with you are fast, they're simple, they're consistent, and they're reliable, and they're proven over and over again. Okay. What state am I in right now? I'm in a fun, playful, let's just roll with the punches kind of an energy. Basically, because when you start dealing with technology, if you try to be all professional and like old school alpha or whatever, you come across as being largely inauthentic. And the minute something goes wrong, you get all flustered. So when you're dealing with things like this, it's really important to be yourself, to be, hey, if you knock something over, pick it up. If you have technical issues, just roll with it. It's not the end of the world. That's how life is, and that's how persuasion is. When you're out in the field, persuasion is not an exact science. The things we're going to share with you, and I want to get into this, are probably as close to exact as you're going to get. They're that, in my world and in the world of my students, they're that reliable. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is the most powerful language pattern that exists. And it's one that changes as the situation changes. And what I'm talking about, of course, is a technique we call the echo technique. Okay. The echo technique is the most conversationally desirable way to influence another human being. The most powerful words a human being can hear are the ones that just came out of their mouth. So let me go ahead and go back to my OneNote. so I can actually make notes on things and teach these things to you. Any questions about state control before I move on to the echo technique? Just type it in the chat if you have questions. Okay. All right, so I need, hold on a second. I have so many choices on what screens to share that it's hard for me to figure out which page I'm which one I'm actually using. All right, we'll go here. And here. All right, can you guys see the, hold on a second, let me just double check this. Oh, that's right. Okay, no, that's not it. Hold on a second. Where's my OneNote? Okay, that's weird. Do you ever have one of those days when nothing just works the way you plan it? Okay, we'll just have to use the whiteboard then. Can you all see my whiteboard? So we're going to talk about the echo technique, which allows you to maximize a person's attention, minimum time. The way this works, the most important words any person can hear at any given time are the ones that just came out of their mouth. Okay. Now, most of my students, for those of you who have been my students for a while, who've used the echo technique out in the field, go ahead and type in the chat how this works, and how well it's worked for you guys. Okay. When you use the echo technique, you literally want to just repeat their words back to them verbatim. The reason that this works and the reason that this is powerful is because when people go through the process of thinking, their thinking processes and their thinking patterns go through a filtering process. NLP calls this a transderivational search. And during those during these processes, the information we get is massaged and it's modified and it's changed to create a map of our world in our heads. Now, functionally, we don't need to understand it. For practical purposes, we don't need to understand that. But what happens is when people speak, the product of their speech is a product of that filtering process, a product of those thoughts. And so if you think like putting a key in a lock, the words that come out of a person's mouth are a direct key to lock fit for their entire neurology. There's a direct connection to all of their emotional beliefs and values. There's a direct connection to their primary ways of relating to themselves and the world. There's a direct connection to the priority they give to certain kinds of information that are important to them. And so when you take the time to give a person's words back to them in as close to the order and sequence as they got, or they gave them to you, they feel instantaneous connection with you. They feel completely understood. They feel like you've heard them. It's like a radar getting a ping. You guys know how radars and sonars work? They send out a signal, and then that signal reflects off of whatever the target is, and then the radar and the sonar orients on that particular object. This is how human beings work. The words we use, and the principle itself goes well beyond words, but the words that we use are like little sonars that are echoing out to the world, and we're moving through the world, literally looking for a reflection back that matches our inside. So when you give somebody's words right back to them in the order and sequence that they gave it to you, it signals sameness. Now, I have a course coming up at the end of June called Hidden Laws of Attraction. We're not going to talk about it on this webinar, but one of the key components to making the law of attraction work is having an internal identity that supports getting the things you want. Why is that important? Because a person's identity is composed of their most deeply held, most powerful, and irresistible beliefs. And so when you give a person's words back to them, it goes right to the level that comprises who they believe they are and what validates them as a person. And so the moment a person gets their very own words back to them, they can't not pay attention to you. It's literally, don't believe me. If this is your first time on a webinar with me, just go out when you talk to baristas, talk to waitresses, waiters, and just give them their words back to them as much as you can, within the context. And I'm going to give you, again, it's not a mockingbird kind of a thing. You have to have a sincere desire to connect with people when you do this. When you do it, people feel heard, they feel understood, they feel validated by how you've communicated with them. And when people experience that level of emotional connection to somebody, they don't want to give it up because it's what they've been secretly looking for their entire life. So I'll give you a really quick demo, and then I want to give you a couple of quick stories. So I first came upon the echo technique way back in the 90s when I first started my journey into the realms of conversational hypnosis and human influence. And it wasn't called the echo technique back then. It was just called pacing then. But the echo technique, for me, rapidly became the flagship way of moving through the world and communicating with people. And back then, I was a career martial artist. I had my school in Coral Springs, Florida. And this is literally how I would enroll prospective clients or students. The phone would ring, and I would literally say, "Hey, good afternoon. This is Coral Springs Martial Arts Academy. This is David. How can I help you?" "Hi, David. My name is Bernice, and I'm looking for for karate lessons for my 10-year-old son, Josh." "Oh, hey, Bernice. So you're looking for for karate lessons for your 10-year-old son, Josh?" "Yeah, great. Well, tell me a little bit more about Josh and why and what's important to you about karate lessons for Josh." "Well, you know, David, Josh is a great kid. He's really smart. In fact, he's so smart that his teachers have actually moved him up a grade, and that's one of the reasons I'm calling." Because Josh is, a little small for his age as it is. He's moving up a grade. And, I heard that martial arts and karate was a really good way for kids to gain a little bit more self-confidence and focus and self-esteem. And it's a good way to protect themselves. I'm worried that Josh is a little small. I'm afraid the bigger kids might pick on him. "Oh, I see, Bernice. So you're saying Josh is a really smart kid? And in fact, he's so smart that his teachers moved him up a grade. And, you had heard that karate was a good way to get self-esteem and self-confidence and focus, and a way to protect himself because you're afraid that the older kids might pick on him." "Absolutely. And you think you can help me?" "Bernice, let me explain something. And this is important. Karate for centuries has been a way for young children, especially children Josh's age, to develop focus and confidence and self-esteem, and as a way to protect themselves against bullies. And as he goes through our training program, he'll rapidly begin to develop that ability to focus, to concentrate, to be able to protect himself from the bully. So those bigger kids won't see Josh as easy pickings, and he'll have a lot more self-confidence and ability to focus in his class. Now, Bernice, I have a special promotion that we're running. It's a 2 private classes and 1 group class. Comes with a free uniform. I have a slot available for Josh today at 4:30 p.m. or would maybe 6:30 p.m. be a better fit for you? David, 4:30 might be a little too early. Maybe I'll bring him at 6:30 because then he can have his dinner, he can get his homework done, and then we can do the lessons. Great. I'll just take some information. We'll see you and Josh at 6:30, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great day. Click. About 90% or more would show up just from that. Now, if you listen to both sides of the conversation, what did you hear mostly? Right? Now, when you're on the outside looking in, it seems blatantly obvious that what I'm doing is repeating a person's very own words back to them. However, to the person receiving that communication, when it's delivered in a congruent, heartfelt, sincere desire to understand and connect, it goes right in and it signals, oh, they get it. They're just like me. I'm not sure if TJ is Is my buddy TJ on the line here? I don't see him. All right, well then I'll have to tell the story. My associate TJ Zebo, who you sometimes see him in front of the camera, but usually when you're watching my videos, he's the one running the camera in the back. Not the ones before 2016, by the way, because that was a pre-TJ moment, right? And he never lets me forget how bad the sound and the video work was before he came along. But TJ came to one of my trainings when we first started teaching the echo technique. And he was like, nah, that can't work. That's too simple. And so we had this girlfriend slash friend that he'd been with for quite some time. He decided to go over to her house and see if this actually worked. And so he walked in all excited. She goes, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. He goes, hey, I just learned this amazing technique. But first, before I tell you about it, tell me about your day. And so the first thing that happened was she starts telling him about her day. And every time he gave it to you, he would echo her words right back. About 15 minutes later into the conversation, she looks at him and she goes, so what about this technique that you learned today? She goes, I'll get to that in a minute. I'm really enjoying our conversation. Tell me more about your day. And so she says this, he says it back. She says this, he says it back. He asks the question, she asks the question, he asks the question back. Going back and forth. So yeah, and I really enjoyed it. Oh, you really enjoyed it? Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And they're going back and forth. About 30 minutes into the conversation, she goes to him, so when are you going to tell me about this technique that you learned? He goes, in a minute, I'll get to it, I promise. And they go back and forth, 15 minutes go by, 45 minutes into the conversation, he can't take it anymore. He bursts out laughing. She looks at him like, what? He goes, you remember that technique I was telling you about? She goes, yeah, when are you going to share it with me? She goes, I've been doing it on you for the last 45 minutes. She goes, nah, bullshit. Right? He goes, no, really, not bullshit. I've been doing it on you this whole time. He goes, no, you haven't. Yeah, no, yes, I have. And she goes, really? She goes, yeah, really. And finally she goes, and then he goes to her, so just as an aside, how do you feel about the conversation we've just had? And she looked at him and she said, you know, I think this is the best conversation we've ever had. Boom. Now, if someone was going to catch you, it would be someone who's known you for years, who knows the way you speak. But the truth is that the echo technique is how human beings are hardwired to communicate. We're looking, when the human neurology is moving through the world, looking for itself. Oh, TJ's here. Let me bring TJ on real quick. Hold on a second. Let me unmute TJ. TJ, you wanna add to that story?
No, you hit it. That was the strong convincer right there, because I knew I was going to get caught. I was like, this is too damn easy, and she knows me way too well. There ain't no way that this can work as easy as he says. And like you said, 45 minutes into the conversation, it's still
cool, right? It does work this way, okay? But you don't have to believe me. Just use it. And here's the secret: you don't have to get all NLP-ish like some of the people do. You don't got to match their tonality. You don't got to match their volume. You don't got to match the speed at which they talk. It's enough to just use their words. And the closer you can match the sequence of words, the better it works. You can use the words as a question. You can modulate your tone. You can use part of the, one word or two words. If you can't remember everything they said, you can begin with the first few words they said and end with the last few and just drop everything in the middle. But one of the byproducts of this is, as you move through the world, people are going to bond with you. They're going to automatically become more connected to you faster. And the beautiful part about this is that they will also talk more. They will talk more. So using the echo technique and understanding how to use that technique literally forces a person's neurology to actually pay attention to you. It makes them pay attention because what's coming at them is so neurologically desirable that they can't not. And when it comes to relationships, I read this phrase once and it's stuck with me ever since. The currency of relationships is attention. The currency of relationships is attention. The echo technique is the most neurologically desirable way for one human being to communicate with another. And once you get it, it will serve you everywhere you go. I'll tell you one other quick story. I was teaching an attraction workshop back in 2016. I think it was a rapid attraction secrets or a real world romance workshop. And I had a gentleman come in. He was really big in the survival and prepper community. And the reason I mention that is because people who are in those niches are, and I don't mean this negatively, but they're largely fear-based. They want to be ready. And so they're usually very suspicious. They're usually very skeptical. They disbelieve before they're actually believers, because they believe what you're saying is bullshit before they've even tried it. So I was teaching the echo technique, and he was in his late 50s, early 60s. He's a single man. He had a date that night, and I was teaching the echo technique, and he's looking at me like, you know, look people get when it seems like they smell something bad, right? He's looking at me like, nah, no way. I said, well, tell you what, just go use it. Come back tomorrow on your date tonight. Come back in the morning and tell me what happened. He comes in the next day and he looks at me like, remember that technique you told me? I told you I didn't think would work? Dude, it works. It works good. Apparently he had a very good night. This is one of the things that, again, it seems like such a simple, obvious tactic. And if you think of it as a tactic, as a way to just pull, you know, as a fast way to pull something over on someone, it's not going to be nearly as powerful. The question is, does it work in different languages? Yes. Yes, as long as you speak in the same language. I don't care if it's English or Swahili or Aborigine or Chinese. All neurologies work this way. Every neurology on the planet is moving through the world looking for its match. It's looking for itself, functionally and metaphorically. And the theme for everything I'm going to teach you today is built around that idea. And it springs off of, or it leverages this idea of echoing a person's internal state in neurology. It works, yeah, it works crazy in tech. It works anywhere that language is involved. Okay, so it works in chat, it works in text, it works in video, it works on the telephone, it works anywhere. I use it in emails all the time, So it eliminates the problem of making small talk, because one of the things that's going to happen, and those of you who've used the echo technique out in the field, testify to this, yes or no, in the chat. When you use the echo technique with somebody, they just keep talking. They talk more. They don't shut up. True or not true? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Right? Absolutely. Now here's the best part about that. The longer they talk, the more connected and attracted to you they tend to get. The more trusting they tend to get by default, because that priming process, that continued self-disclosure, amplifies their positive regard towards you, the positive feelings that they have, right? Yeah. And sometimes the worst thing you can do is interrupt it, okay? But the idea behind the echo technique is that you learn it, you have to go prove it to yourself that this works. And then this becomes your baseline, like a flow drill in the martial arts, where you start with a basic movement, like a metronome, and then you break the pattern, you do a technique, you come back to your flow drill, right? It's a metaphor some of you may or may not get. Maybe I'll demonstrate one shortly, but it'd have much more impact if, in fact, one of the hacks I used in my doctorate program, and I use this actually to a certain degree in my master's degree program, was anytime I had a homework assignment, what I would literally do is I would ask for an example from that teacher. Understand? Sometimes people have stock examples in the book or whatever, but I would ask, if I could, I would try to get an example from the teacher that they gave a high score to. And I would take that structure and I would literally turn my product in verbatim, different content, but with the same structure. and I always worked. And the only time I ever got a bad grade, was when I deviated from that person's. You know, academic teachers are amazingly rigid in what they'll approve, and they don't realize that they're projecting their internal world onto everything around them and looking for the matches. Now, that concept that I just explained is going to become very important when we get to some of the other techniques later on. But everybody in the world that you will interact with is moving through the world, projecting their inner states and what's right and wrong in their world onto everyone around them. And when they find something that matches, they cling to it and they don't want to let it go. And that, for you, is power. That gives you an ability to influence a person to like you, love you, trust you, believe in you, and it gives you tremendous psychological leverage. One technique can do all that. It'll prime the person to keep talking. It'll force the neurology to pay attention to you. It sends powerful signals of sameness to your listeners. It'll cause them to become progressively more connected and positively disposed towards you. It'll make your listeners feel heard, understood, and accepted. If you've ever heard the expression, he just doesn't get me, or she just doesn't get me, or you don't get it, this will eliminate that. You will get gotten every single time you speak. And you will actually know the person you're communicating with better than someone who's known them 10, 20, 30 years, okay? It will match every single filter that they have for parsing and creating their own internal reality, and it will put you in their reality in a way that they don't want to give it up, okay? Very, very powerful. Any questions about this technique? Cool. Excellent. So I'm going to talk to you now. I have two other techniques that I can talk to you about. I probably have time to cover one before we get to, I want to talk about some of the trainings and things we've got coming up. So would you like to learn about conversational frameworks or emotional bonding? How to make someone like, love, and trust you in as little as 20 minutes, or how to emotionally bond them to your product or service? Which is better for you? Rob says, yeah, it actually works when you're fluency in a foreign language, isn't it? Yeah, because now you have an excuse to repeat their words. It's great. U3MQ, give me them all. Both. Bond with services and me, product or service, emotional. All right. Emotional bonding, whichever one gets me laid the quickest. I guess I know we're bonding. Okay. All right. So keep in mind now where we're going to go next. We're going to talk about emotional bonding. Okay. And then what I'll do is we're going to talk about emotional bonding. And then if it's okay with you, what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about a package I put together for you, as well as some special bonuses just for people on today's webinar. After I've talked about that, with your permission, I'd like to come back and teach for another half hour, 45 minutes after we've done everything else. That means that we're going to be going beyond a 90-minute or 2-hour webinar. Is that okay? Is that something you're up for? Cool, excellent. All right, so let's talk about one of my favorite techniques. And this is called the emotional bonding checklist, or literally how to bond your subject to you, your product, or your service, and make them want to do what you want them to do in pretty much any situation or circumstance. Now, keep in mind, in the world of persuasion, there's no such thing as 100%. Nothing works every time. That being said, the things I'm about to share you work 90% of the time or better. 9 out of 10 times, when you do this, it will work. It will work well. In fact, the times it doesn't work is probably because you missed something in this process. Okay? So what we're talking about when we talk about the emotional bonding checklist, the checklist itself relates to a category of beliefs that people have that NLP has called criteria and values. Now, functionally speaking, criteria and values are checklists, and they're checklists that we use to decide if something is right or desirable in our world or undesirable in our world. Remember I said when people are moving through the world, their words are like sonar or radar that are pinging the people around them, and depending on what's reflected back, they orient on it and decide whether it's good or not. That echolocation that we're talking about, that those words that they use are linked to a checklist of parameters. In other words, things that have to be satisfied, criteria, for lack of a better word. As you move through the world, let's say you're moving, for those of you interested in attraction, so if you want to date a hot guy or a hot girl, you have certain types that you have. Maybe they're tall, maybe they're brunette, maybe they're well built, maybe they're trim, maybe they're not trim, right? Maybe you like shorter people, right? Those are what we call, those are items on your checklist. We call those criteria, right? If you're talking about business, if you're selling real estate, or if you're doing real estate, you may have a buyer. You ask them, to talk about their perfect house. They'll tell you, well, perfect house would have 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, walk-in closets, a big kitchen, close to good schools, huge yard. All of these elements are items on their checklist, but there's an emotional significance to each of those items on the checklist. And so it's important to know not only the checklist, but the emotions connected to them. Because the way it works is people move through the world ticking off boxes on their checklist, and when a certain number of boxes gets checked off, their body generates a feeling, and they give that feeling a name. So people will talk about, oh, I need a huge kitchen. Well, huge kitchen is a name. It's also a criteria. But then you would ask them a very simple question. So just so I understand you better, what's important to you about having a huge kitchen for you personally? And they might say something to the effect of, well, a huge kitchen is important because I have a lot of family for entertaining my friends and my family. I want to have enough room for everybody so that we can all get together and connect, and so we can all be together like we used to in our old house. Oh, I see. So it's important to have a big kitchen because that allows you to have all of your family over. You have a big family. It allows you to connect like in your old house. And connection is really important to you, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, if I could show you a house that would have a big kitchen that would allow you to have your friends over and your family over so you could all be together and connect like the old time, would that be something you'd be interested in looking at? Oh my God, yes. Can you see the emotion that I'm doing my best to convey to you? You will see that happen when you elicit the criterias and the values. In other words, their emotional bonding checklist. And what you want to do is you want to establish the elements on the checklist and what the emotional processes are that allow them to experience that. Okay, so you might want to get out some paper right now and write this down. Okay, there's a template that we use. Now, the two most important questions that you can ask when we do emotional criteria and values or emotional bonding: A, what's important about? That is the criteria question. Now, if you can think of other ways to ask that, I have found that sometimes if you change the wording of the question a little bit, you get a different kind of information that's not quite as useful. So for beginners especially, I would be using echo technique through this entire process. And if you use the echo technique with it, it's impossible to go wrong. You also want to make sure that you're creating a conversation, not an interrogation. And to do that, it's very important to soften what you say. So if someone comes up to you and they say, what's important to you about, the perfect guy? You say, well, he's got to be trustworthy and passionate and successful and loves dogs, right? And you could literally drill down on each of those things and ask, well, what's important to you about a guy who's trustworthy? And how do you know? How do you know when you've got the guy that's trustworthy, that you can really trust, right? And if you're watching what I do with my hands, what you're seeing here is what we call an analog marking. Now, here's what's really cool, is the act of eliciting a person's criteria and values, their emotional bonding checklist, generates an emotional response in that person. And they're looking at you when those feelings come up. So not only does it deepen the rapport that you have with them, it also links those feelings and those qualities and attributes to you automatically without having to actually do something like an analog marking like you're seeing me do here. right? It will spontaneously do that. You can add to it by using an analog marking, which is a kind of a subliminal linking process. Gestures are very, very powerful and important aspects of neurological languaging. So for some reason, when I try to share my screen on my OneNote, it doesn't show. So I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to just go ahead and write them down, okay? A couple of things you need to understand about criterion values. They're checklists. In other words, people have a checklist. When that checklist is met, the body generates a feeling, and we give that feeling a name. You must use the name of the feeling when you want them, if you want them to associate your product or service to that need. And that's what you have to do. You have to use their words, just like an echo technique, to connect your product or service or yourself to that individual. And if you can tell stories using their words that exemplify that, then you will amplify and magnify that connection, or whatever the state is you're going for, or whatever the criterion values that you're going for. I may do a role play with somebody in just a moment if that cements it in. But if you go back on the replay, you actually saw me. If you go back to the demo I did with the echo technique, you remember when I was doing the phone technique? If you go back and you rewatch that segment, you will hear me say, so just so I understand you better, Bernice, what's important about? And Bernice gave me a list of things that were important to her. And then all I did was agree. I softened what I was about to say, and then I gave them back to her. If I wanted to go deeper, I could have said something to the effect of, Coral Springs Martial Arts Academy, this is David, how can I help you? Hi, David, my name is Bernice. I'm looking for karate lessons for my 10-year-old son, Josh. Great, so hey, Bernice, so you're looking for 10-year-old lessons for your karate lessons for your 10-year-old son, Josh? Yeah, David, I am. Can you help me? Absolutely. So I'm just curious. It's important for me when I first talk to a prospective client to understand them better, to know them a little bit, and know really what it is that you would like Josh to get out of martial arts. So if I could ask you a question, what's important to you about karate lessons for Josh? Well, you know, David, Josh is a great kid. He's really smart. He's really sweet. In fact, he's so smart that his teachers moved him up a grade. And that's kind of what I'm worried about, because Josh is not big for his age anyway, and he's going into a group of kids who are ahead of him. They're bigger, they're stronger. And I'm just worried that Josh, might feel a little intimidated. He might be a little scared, and that the older kids might pick on him. Oh, I get it. So you're worried that the kids might pick on Josh because he's a little bit smaller and they're older and they're bigger. So I'm curious, just so I understand you better, what's really important to you about Josh being able to protect himself or defend himself against the bullies and stuff like that? Well, when I was a kid, I was picked on, and I remember being afraid, and it really impacted my social life. I was afraid of everybody, and I was afraid to go out. I just need to make sure that my son is protected and taken care of. And if I can do anything to help him, then I will. Oh, I get it. So you're worried that, because you were picked on as a little kid, Josh might get picked on and impacted your social life and everything about your schoolwork. Yeah. And I know that Josh, I know Josh isn't me, but I know what it was like for me. Bernice, you're absolutely right. It's horrible to be picked on and bullied as a kid, and it can impact a person's social life and everything. And as Josh goes through our program, he's going to learn the exact skills he needs to fend off those bullies, to be able to stand up for himself, to be able to focus and to not become an easy target. And as a byproduct of that, he'll move through the world being more socially outgoing, more confident. His schoolwork will improve. He'll be more focused, and he'll become the kid that he really wants to be. And he'll be able to know how to deal with the bullies that maybe you didn't understand or weren't taught how to deal with when you were little. Is that something you'd like for Josh? Oh my God, yes. When can we come in and how does it work? Well, we have a two trial lesson program with a free uniform. All you got to do is let me know. I have an appointment at 4:30 and I have an appointment at 6:30 today. Josh can come in. He can take 2 lessons for free. He gets a free T-shirt. If you want, we can put him in a group class and see how he does, and then you can decide how soon you want to get him enrolled. Great. So which time slot would be better for you, Bernice? This would be 4:30 or 6:30. How soon do you want to get started? I think I think 4:30 is going to be better for Josh, because I can, he can get his homework done. I can bring him right over. He can do his class. He can come home. He can have dinner, and maybe, talk about what he wants to do after we get him signed up. Great. I'll see you guys. I'll take some information down. I'll see you guys at 4:30. Have a great day. Click. Now, what did you notice? What did you notice about the interaction? Slightly different, but there are a lot of similar elements. What did you notice? You can type it in the chat. You thought you bought it. Yeah. Well, again, did you hear the emotion? And that's how you know you're getting it. When you do the criteria, the emotional bonding process, if you're not generating an obvious emotional response, pupil dilation, forward leans, sometimes the eyes will water or tear up, you haven't hit pay to read. Now, that being said, it's almost never necessary to ask the what's important about question more than 3 times. Because each time you ask the what's important about question, they're going to elaborate on it. The criteria question is, how do you know? So going back to our real estate example, if I was selling real estate, someone and a prospective client came up to me and says, yeah, I'm interested in buying a new house. And the realtor, if they're smart, would say, fantastic. So it's important as a service delivery person for me to understand you better. And so just so I understand you better, if you could think about the perfect house, tell me what that's like. How do you know when you've got the perfect house? And that's the question we're going for. How do you know when you've got the perfect house? And they're going to give you a list of things. Near good schools, big backyard, big, large kitchen. Those are criteria. Now I know if I'm going to show someone a house, I better not show them one with a tiny kitchen. If I'm going to show them a house, I better not show them one that's in a bad neighborhood or not close to a school. Those are elements that I have to meet. Those are things that let me know I'm giving them what they're looking for. But behind those criteria are emotions. There's emotional memories and emotional reasons for why they want them. Sometimes they're pragmatic, sometimes they're nostalgic. Your job as an influencer is to elicit those criteria, mine them for the emotional connections, and when you describe your product or service, you use those words to describe it. And when they give you criteria, big kitchen, 3 bathrooms, walk-in closets, you don't talk about anything else. This is where a lot of people who are classically trained or traditionally trained salespeople miss it. Because people are trained to do what they call features and benefits presentations. And so the moment they get a few pieces of data, they start running these laundry lists at people, basically throwing mud, hoping it sticks. And when you start tapping into people's criteria and values, and you see that emotional engagement, and then you veer away from it, you'll see the lights go off. Okay? So the secret to using this form of influence, which makes it massively targeted to a specific person, while at the same time giving you a generic template that you can apply to everyone. It allows you to follow the same formula and yet customize everything in your presentation to exactly what's emotionally relevant to that person. It works in romance. It works in dating and attraction. It works in real estate sales. It works in insurance sales. It works over the phone. It works in chats. It works in any form of linguistic communication where a dialogue is possible. Right? So take a moment and write down what's important to you right now about learning these technologies. What's it gonna? I'm not gonna ask you to show me what they are, but I want you as an exercise to write down what's important about learning these skills for you. What's it gonna allow you to do, be, have, experience? And then write down next to that, What's important about that? What's going to happen when you have the ability to do what I've just given you the ability to do? What are you going to see in your life? What's that going to mean for you? Right? And then once you have that, what's going to happen then? What's important about that secondary result? So for example, maybe learning how to influence people using emotional bonding allows you to make more sales, so you can earn more money, so you can cover all your bills and have take have more security for your family. Maybe it'll allow you to take vacations that you've always wanted to take, to find to put teams together that have the same values and the same criteria, so they all go about satisfying one another in the same way, and that allows you to experience more peace of mind, or more safety, or more certainty, or more relaxation. David's asking, this could be used in copywriting. 1000% it can be used in copywriting. In fact, it often is. In fact, I'll be teaching a class in August in Las Vegas, a 4-hour workshop on utilizing these technologies in direct response copy and copywriting. Well, you're on your way, Camille. Okay, you have the echo technique and you have this idea. Now the secret is, now if you go back again, and I gave you 2 very powerful examples of this, both using a martial arts metaphor, right? Notice at the end, when you go back and review this webinar, notice at the end of that particular interaction, so my close was very simple. How soon would you like to get started? That was my close. And in 99% of my prospect interactions with people, that is the close that I use. Because, well, no, it's not an it's an assumptive, but it's not jarring. You notice when I make the request, I'm not asking them if they want to buy. I'm asking them how soon they want to get started, or what the next step. An alternate close that I would use is, what's the next step we need to take to move forward? And whatever they tell you is exactly what you do, right? And the secret is when you make these kinds of transitions to closes, it's just a smooth, matter-of-fact conversation. Okay, well, let's just go over here and fill out the paperwork, and we'll get you going, right? What's the next step, or how soon do you want to get started? 80–90% of my, actually more than 90% of my closes usually end with one of 2. Usually, how soon do you want to get started? Because if I've done my work right, I've cracked the nut of the shell, and I've gone inside to their heart, and I've looked at the song they're playing in their heart. And I've made a determination very, very quickly, based on the information they've given me, what's important to them, what they need, what they want most deeply, what they want satisfied. And then I have to make a decision. I have to make a decision. Once I find that information, once you find that information, you have to look at your product or service, even if that product or service is you, and just make a determination if you can deliver what they need. Deliver what they need. Because here's the thing you need to understand, and I don't know if I covered this earlier. A person cannot go against their deeply held values and criteria without experiencing emotional pain. You understand what I said there? You cannot have your values violated without feeling pain, physical or emotional, they're the same. Conversely, when a person describes or talks about or hears their criteria and values coming back to them, they go into a pleasure state, usually a very powerful, positive rapport state. They go into a powerful trance, an emotional trance. However, like anything that has real power, this can be misused, because if you understand the emotional triggers a person has, you can link it to something that doesn't give them or satisfy those criteria or values. It's very possible to mislead people and get them to do things that are not in their best interest. However, if you do that and you use this power to hurt somebody, those people will become your worst enemy. They will move heaven and earth to get payback for you, on you, okay? Karma's a bitch, I know, because I dated her sister, right? So here's the tactic, the technology that I want you to understand. This is the most emotionally compelling way to present anything to anyone, whether it's a dating context, a teaching context, conflict resolution context, negotiation, mediation, doesn't matter. When you make the determination that you can satisfy it, talk only about the things that are most emotionally relevant to them. Muller's asking to me, do you use this technique on leader? Yes, 1000%. You use it on everyone. You use it on everyone anytime you can, because it's going to tell you and what's important. This will allow you to get jobs you're not qualified for. This will. I've had clients out there who have tested this. I've done it multiple times. I've used this in job interviews. We have a variation of this we call the interview crusher technique that allows people to just walk into a job interview and literally emotionally bond themselves to the interviewer in such a way that they, even if their resume isn't as good as the people around you, they can only think about you, right? But you have to use their words, and you have to use it in a way that bonds people to your product or service, okay? Questions on this? No? Okay. Is it okay if I jump to, we've got some amazingly cool stuff coming up for July and August. And now that it appears that the COVID issue is starting to die down, things are starting to open, we're moving back to our live event schedule. So I'd like, if it's okay, to share some things with you about what's coming up. And then once I'm done with that, if it's okay, I'll come back and teach. Is that fair? The question was, Ahmed says, can we use this to bond with our family members better? Yes. Use the echo technique first, get them comfortable self-disclosing, and then just soften and ask what's important about, and they'll give you the information. But even if they don't, echo technique is always almost usually more than strong enough to subtly stimulate those criteria and values. So just using echo technique will get them emotionally engaged in what you're doing. Deliberately going after the criteria will get you even more gold. Cool. All right. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to jump back to my erstwhile PowerPoint. And so if it's okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second here. Hold on, I got too many windows open. Share screen. There we go. Cool. All right. So who's ready to go from interesting information to a confident, competent master of persuasion and take your skills to the next level? I hope you are, because I'm excited. Here's how you take the skills to the next level. So for those of you who are new to Planet David, I don't have the chat room open, so I'm going to just go off of what I can see and what I can't. If you've ever been to the NLP Power website, you noticed we have a lot of videos. We have a huge YouTube channel. We have over 50 some products probably available on the website. Many people come up to me and they ask, David, what's the best course for me? What should I go? And I usually say, well, that depends on where you want to go and what you want to accomplish, because there's many pathways through our materials. And so what I often tell my students at the live events, what I often tell them over the phone, and what Stephanie tells them when they call is, tell us what you want to accomplish, and we will give you the minimal number of products or trainings to attend to get from where you are to where you want to be in the most efficient time possible. Because if you go to our website and you don't know what these, you're not sure what relates to what. So I always ask people, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What do you want to learn? What do you want to be able to do as a byproduct of your time with NLP Power? And they'll tell me they're either going to go to influence and persuasion, or they're going to go into some form of therapy or coaching or whatever. And many of our courses work both, but there is an optimal pathway for most people. And so the question inevitably comes up, well, should I just buy the videos or should I come to the live event? And without hesitation, 100% of the time, the first words out of my mouth are, come to the live event. Because at the live event, I can look over your shoulder. I can interact with you. I can modify drills. I can give you the sticking points. And most importantly, I can put you with one person after another. We do 3 times more hands-on than any other training system in the industry. And people come out of that from zero, and they come out heroes. They become unstoppable because of the way that we insist on training you. So if you get the chance to come to a live event, do it. However, I also realize that logistically speaking, some people can't get to the live events for whatever reason. They don't have the resources, they can't get off work, their parents are sick or a loved one they have to take care of. And in those rare circumstances where you can't get to a live event, I tell people, get the videos, and then when you can, first opportunity, come to a live event that's focused on the things you got your course on. So when I put this webinar together, I had to sit back because I haven't had the benefit of speaking to most of you. And I had to kind of go on past experience, and I tried my best to put a set of programs together that would give you the biggest, most huge bang for your buck and the greatest leap in your persuasion skills in the shortest amount of time possible. So with your permission, I'd like to go ahead and jump into that and talk about the very first thing, which I mentioned several times throughout this course, which is our Killer Influence Secrets of Covert Hypnosis home study course. This is a $1,497 value. And this is a course that can starts at the CPI model, that little target diagram that I share with you, and it takes you through the entire conversational hypnosis process. It teaches you the 6 unstoppable language patterns, how to gain rapport with people and transfer those emotions back and forth so their neurology is primed to think along the lines you want them to think. It teaches you how to learn how to actually make people's bodies do what you want them to do as part of that training. You learn how to get powerful rapport with people, how to make people's internal pictures be whatever you want, make anything you want seem to cause whatever you want in the minds of your subject. You're going to learn the 6 most powerful language patterns, in addition to embedded commands, quotes patterns, and things that allow you to completely hide very powerful, compelling stories. But you're also going to learn something that's not covered in any other course that I've ever seen out there. And that's what we call hypnotic operators. Hypnotic operators are nonverbal techniques and technologies that have the ability to systematically position you in the mind of a subject or cause them to think about you in ways that are usually beneficial to your outcome or goal. We're going to talk about spatial hypnotic operators or proxemic hypnotic operators, how to sit and where to stand at tables so that you automatically take on the power position. We'll talk about the 4 horsemen of irresistible hypnotic influence: authority, attractivity, affinity, and acquiescence. These are 4 categories of influence techniques that, when you combine them together, literally forces a person's neurology to be compliant and obedient and want to be compliant and obedient. You'll understand the dynamics of authority, the dynamics of affinity and acquiescence, and how they interact, how the dynamics of one are different from the dynamics of another, and how to cherry pick and customize those technologies to get your goals done in minimum time. You'll learn very powerful self-programming techniques and technologies that allow you to influence the most important person there is. That's you. You'll learn cold reading skills that allow you to make deductions about people and use those in your communication so that they become more hyper compliant to you and obedient. You'll learn about socially programmed hypnotic operators. These are social behavioral triggers that society and culture has programmed into you that are like buttons you can push, and people will behave in a very consistent and predictable way. And you'll learn how to utilize those and how to avoid having them used on you. We'll also teach you about meta programs, which are filters that people have that control what kind of data they pay attention to first, and how you can use those to make people want to do what you want them to do and pay attention to you in ways that are appropriate. You can make people pay attention to anything you want. You can cause anything you want to mean anything you want in the minds of your subject. You'll learn, there's a special chapter in that manual, the Killer Influence Manual, called DRTs, which stands for Dirty Rotten Tricks. These are kind of gray area attraction tactics and influence tactics that you can pull out when you need to and engineer very powerful influence situations. It's all enclosed in, I think it's a 17 to 22 video set combined with a 240-page manual. It's a huge course. We value it at $1,497. And we highly recommend this as an adjunct to the technologies that you're getting in this webinar. It's a $1,497 value. We're also going to include our Speed Attraction, Rapid Attraction Secrets home study course. This is our CPI and Killer Influence technologies applied to the area of dating, attraction, and relationships. I've taught this as a co-ed class, and I've taught it as a one gender only class. Many of the techniques and tools and technologies in these courses are applicable to both genders. Okay, you'll learn how to control your emotional state and radiate confidence at will. You can move through the world like a rock star, and people will actually treat you like one. You'll learn to understand the psychology and body language of attraction in a way that most people never will, in a way that you can use it, observe it, and calibrate it. You'll learn to speed read people's levels of emotional intimacy. You can look, we call it the mating dance. It's a way to look at people and know just from their body orientations, postures, and so forth, who's more into who. There are 7 discrete stages of body language phases that people go through, from stranger to intimacy. And at 5 of those 7 stages, the woman is leading the dance. At 2 key points, a man has to do a specific thing. And if you do those 2 specific things, you can be taking her home or him home in as little as 20 to 30 minutes. If you miss those cues, the process can take dramatically longer. Okay. If you screw up a step, you have to go backwards. You'll know exactly how to fix it and go back and fix things. I taught this originally as a way for men and women to understand each other. Both genders use this. So it's important to understand how both sides work. We'll teach you the art and science of cold reading for dating and mate selection. We'll teach you the 3 magic questions at a deeper level than we're going to cover in this webinar for creating undeniable, irresistible connection and chemistry. We'll talk about vibing, which is a combination of rapport, social status, and energy, and why it's important for generating sexual attraction or romantic attraction in people instead of getting stuck in the friend zone. We'll teach you how to case a venue and how to make approaches and get people in, get complete strangers in conversations, and to scout people for attraction, how to eliminate blocks to your dating and relationship success, and a whole lot more. This is a $1,497 value course. It is probably one of our better courses for, in fact, we had people who had just come from other people's dating workshops come to this class. They came in the next day after field testing it, and they were blown away by how easy it was for people for them to attract the people they wanted. One of my ladies actually wound up learning the system. She went out to the front lobby where a guy she was attracted to was working, and literally put the whammy on him that day, and they were dating for weeks after that. And she was, extremely happy because he was like 10 years younger than she was. And it went very well for a while, but it turns out he wasn't the right one for her, and she moved on to greener pastures. But she walked right out of the training, put the whammy on the guy, and was actually quite happy with how fast it worked. So when I say that this works for either gender, I'm very, very serious about that. This is a very, very powerful course. $1,497 value. If you combine that with the Killer Influence Home Study course, you're looking at $2,994. But we're also going to include Stealth Selling Secrets Sales and Interview Success Home Study course. This is a special breakout I taught during our Stealth CPI training several years ago. And it's how to utilize the CPI criteria, values, and frame control processes to emotionally bond people to your product or service, win any job interview, even if you're not the best candidate, how to understand people better than ever before, and use those understandings to help them get everything, help yourself get everything you want by giving them everything they want. It's going to teach you how to control your frame, how to come across as a dominant, a subordinate, an equal, or any other type of frame you want in any interview or interaction or negotiation. It's not uncommon for people to boost their selling and conversion rates over the phone, in person, door to door, by as much as 40% or more. You can learn how to motivate and select teams for better by understanding how to match criteria and values with yourself and the values of your company. You'll learn how to select the right employees by making sure that their values are the same as yours, and the way they go about achieving those values are the same as yours. If you both are talking about fruit, but one likes apples and one likes oranges, you're going to have points of contention, even though on one level you're doing the same thing. We'll show you how to break through that and make sure you're getting apples for apples and oranges for oranges. It'll let you take your business life. It'll allow you to take full control of your business life, because any place that runs with human beings, criteria and values are involved. And this is the flagship course for really understanding and drilling down on that. And there's a lot more in that. In fact, in this particular course, there was a gentleman who he came in. It was his first class with us. He was actually a pharmaceutical salesman. Let me go ahead and stop sharing for a moment. I can tell the story. He was actually a pharmaceutical salesman, and he came in with this: "I'm a salesman. I've been selling forever. I know how to do this." And he literally fought us tooth and nail, literally for the entire program. And what you see in this program is we literally use the criterion value system to pummel him into philosophical submission. And he became such a proponent of this program that he went out into the world. He started moving up the sales charts in his company. 2 or 3 months into applying this out in the streets, his company went through a reorganization. He got downsized and laid off. Within 2 weeks, he had another job at more money, better opportunities. For some reason, we needed to work on this guy's job selection criteria, because for some reason he managed to pick two or three companies in a row that within 3 months of getting hired, they downsized and he was out of a job. But every time he was out of a job, he had a job within 2 weeks because he understood how to go in and just nail the interview. In fact, he became so passionate about this system, he did two things. A, he left pharmaceutical sales and went into full-time coaching because he realized that was where what he really wanted to do. And if it didn't work, he had the skills to go out and get a job anytime he wanted to, regardless of his age, regardless of the qualifications of the other people. That's the power of the interview crusher method of criteria and values. Not only that, when he came back to our subsequent trainings, every time we came to the point in the training where we were going to teach criteria and values, he would jump up like Horseshat from Welcome Back, Kotter and beg to teach this segment because it was such a powerful and important component in his ability to get the life and the lifestyle he wanted. He now works with children very successfully. But it started with this whole battle of the echo techniques. And so if you get when you get the Self-Selling Secrets program, you'll actually see me and my partner, James C2, doing that and seeing him kind of drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And he's still using it to this day. So I just wanted to tell that story. Let me see here. We go back to sharing my screen. And here we go. Okay. So Self-Selling Secrets is an awesome course, especially because it drills down specifically on frame control. In other words, how to change frames within an interaction, how to be perceived as dominant, how to be perceived as equal, how to be perceived as a subordinate, and how to modify those frames. Very powerful. So if you take the Killer Influence Secrets of Home Study course, $14.97, you take that Rapid Attraction Secrets, Speed Attraction course, valued at $1,497. You combine that with our Selling Secrets program, which I really should sell for $14.97, but here it's valued at $497. Total value in this package so far, if you were to go to the website and try and buy it, will be $3,588. We're also going to throw in, this is a really cool course. This is called Anchors in Action. People ask me a lot about this thing called anchoring, and people throw that word around like it's really useful. Anchoring can be extraordinarily useful, but the way most NLP teachers teach you about anchoring makes it very clunky and not user-friendly. This is a course I co-taught with my good friend James C2, who's probably one of the better business applications people out there. Now, this is a crash course in NLP anchoring. So NLP anchoring is the ability to take a trigger and link a state or a behavior or a process to it. Human beings are anchoring machines. We are constantly creating connections between our external environment and our internal environment. And this course is going to teach you how to take control of that process. So you'll learn how and understand how anchors work. It'll allow you to control your states on demand and the states of others on demand. You'll learn how to set anchors, how to collapse and remove negative anchors from yourself. You'll learn how to create sliding anchors, which are anchors that have variable intensity, like a dimmer switch or an equalizer. You'll learn about tonal anchors, which is you be able to anchor a feeling or a behavior to a certain tonality. You'll learn to link yourself through anchoring to people's buying processes so that you can actually link, like if they have a process, if you get them to talk about a time when they had a deal that they were really glad that they made, and you figure out the spatial location where that feeling and that memory is stored, if you attach yourself to that spot, you've now stolen or harvested that anchor, and you can use that and link them, the process they used to make a similar decision to you. So it's great for making long-lasting first impressions. It's great for creating preset states of confidence, playfulness, curiosity. These are very powerful social dynamic states that you want to have on demand. Anchoring, for people who understand it, is kind of like the Batman utility belt for states. If you need a state, you create it, you press the button, and within 20 to 30 seconds, that state will start to engage. You'll learn the ins and outs and the finer points of basic anchoring, and you'll be introduced to the more subtle and covert ways of using anchoring out in the business world, out in the dating and attraction worlds, and so forth. You can also use this to eliminate and weaken behaviors that hold you back, close more deals, get more dates. This is a very powerful amplifier to the CPI technology and the Killer Influence technologies. $97 value. again, underpriced on this particular presentation. Total value so far, if you went to the website to try to purchase that today, would be $3,685. We're also going to throw in a course that doesn't, on the surface, seem to kind of fit with this package, and I'll tell you why we included this. Many times when people reach out to us, they want to know about our speed healing techniques. In other words, they have a state or a body feeling that they have or a physical issue, and they're looking for a quick and easy way to alleviate it. The Energy Hypnosis Speed Healing Program is a video that's focused specifically on what we call our neurosomatic, or our psychosomatic neuromodulation process, or energy spinning. Using the energy spinning technology, it is possible to alleviate phobias and fears and physical and emotional pain in seconds once you do it. We included it here because a lot of people have issues that can be very, very rapidly addressed, state issues, really, that impact their ability to exert influence, that can be addressed directly and dramatically through the Energy Hypnosis Speed Healing Program. A lot of people who want to learn these processes are healers or come from the healing profession. And this is a very fast and rapid deep dive into one technique that yields huge amounts of benefits. I see two people have raised their hand. So let me go ahead and see if I can stop sharing for a second. Oh, did not mean to do that. Small print is about catching liars. Okay. Yeah, I had to modify this. I thought about throwing that in there too. All right, I'll go back. I'll answer the questions after I'm done presenting. Okay, so in Energy Hypnosis Speed, oh yeah, I see I messed up the copy here. So yeah, just disregard this. This is from another course. But I'll tell you what, as an added bonus, for those of you who take advantage of this offer today, I will also throw in our Lie to Me If You Dare, How to Catch a Liar course. Crash course. This one is really useful. Okay, and this will teach you understand the key indicators of deception, 15 unique tells that clue you in when people may be lying, how to look at everything the body is doing and understand it, how to understand men better, how to understand women better, how to eliminate behaviors that weaken your influence, close more deals, get more dates, and never be manipulated again. This is one that I think should be basic training for every human being on the planet, but especially for the ladies, especially for the ladies. Not that I'm bigoted or anything, but you know, there are certain predators out there who make a career out of duping people that they feel who don't understand these particular skills. So for those of you who are interested, it's also a $97 value. And so for those of you who want to take advantage of the offer that we're making today, I'll throw that in as an extra bonus. So total value is going to be over $4,000 or over $3,000, $3,800 for this. Next page. So let's review once again. Killer Influence, Secrets of Covert Hypnosis, valued at $1,497. We're going to also add in the Speed Attraction, Rapid Attraction Secrets Home Study Course, valued at $1,497. This is our Universal Influence package, by the way. Stealth Selling Secrets, Sales Interview and Success Course, valued at $497. The Anchors in Action, NLP Anchoring Crash Course, valued at $97. We're also going to throw in the Lie to Me course. Brandon and Harry are going to kill me. Valued at $97 as well. And then, of course, we're going to throw in that extra Energy Hypnosis, Speed Healing, Rapid Healing Crash Course, valued at $97. Total value today would be over $3,700, $3,784, if you went to the website and bought it today. However, we're going to add one more thing. For those of you who want to do a live event, and this is available for the first 35 people to register today, July 16th through the 19th, San Diego, California, we are doing our next live Killer Influence 2020 Secrets of Covert Hypnosis 4-day certification boot camp, July 16th through the 19th. And in this course, we will cover every single thing you heard me talk about on the webinar today, everything you heard me talk about in the home study course description, as well as some very specific modules we call counter manipulation techniques or technologies. This is a deep dive into the techniques and tactics of social predators. These are the narcissists, sociopaths, Machiavellians, dark triads, human traffickers. This is going to be there's going to be several modules on psychological and social self-defense. You're going to understand the psychology of attraction and how people hack it and utilize it to create very, very powerful holds over people. How they do it, how it works, and most importantly, you're going to learn how to do it yourself and how to protect, and as a result of that, how to protect yourself against the various forms of social predators that are hacking these technologies and using them against you. It is probably, we have never taught a class as in-depth as this one promises to be. We taught a few modules of the counter manipulation curriculum in Las Vegas last year. People loved it. They were screaming for more. So we decided to dedicate an entire killer influence training to counter manipulation and defense against the dark arts of persuasion and manipulation tactics. So you'll learn everything that's taught in the basic killer influence course and a whole lot more. It's a 4-day certification taught July 16th through the 19th here at the Doubletree downtown San Diego. I'm told that they will be open, and so I plan on being there. If for some reason the venue is not available, then we will do this certification live but online. And when things open up, we will schedule a special killer influence training live event for you. That's why it says 2-for-1 virtual live VIP ticket. You get to come to the online event, and then when we do this course live and in person, you get to come to that one absolutely free. It's a $2,994 value, and it's all about the ability to do the drills and get the skills. Total value, if you were to get all of this today, would be $6,687 or $88, or maybe a little bit more because my math's a little bit off, but it's over $6,679 for sure. Okay, does that sound like a good deal? Wait, there's more. So here's our offer. Killer Influence, Secrets of Covert Hypnosis, $1,497. Speed Attraction, Rapid Attraction Secrets Home Study Course. The Stealth Selling Secrets, Maximizing Business and Selling, Interviewing and Selling Applications, $497 value. The Anchors in Action NLP Anchor Crash Course. The Energy Hypnosis Speed Healing Crash Course. Let's put that Lidomin course in there. $97 value. And of course, the 4-day Killer Influence Certification Bootcamp with the special 2-for-1 VIP super ticket, which includes a live event and or a virtual event. This is available only to the first 35 people today who register. And for the first 15 people to register, the next 15 people to register for this will get a special bonus day. In other words, a special private group class with me. So instead of a 4-day event, you're going to get a 5-day event. Those 15 people will be locked in a room with me for 8 hours, and I will answer every question that you have. We will drill down and do hot seats on every sticking point and target that class just for your needs. It's only available to the first 15 people who register today. The first 35 will get the whole webinar package, but not the bonus day. They'll get the 4-day, but not the 5-day. So if you're one of the first 15 people, you're going to get an extra day of training with me. Now, that may be live and in person, or it may be virtual, but either way, when we get back to doing live events, which I'm hoping will be in July, you'll be able to come to that hands down. Now, obviously, this is a special offer. I'm not going to charge you $6,679. We're not going to charge you $4,167. We're not even going to charge you $2,697. For those of you who take advantage of this special offer today, you can get everything. The Killer Influence, Secrets of Covert Hypnosis Home Study Course, the Speed Attraction, Rapid Attraction Secrets Program, the Stealth Selling Secrets, Sales and Interview Process, the Anchors in Action, NLP Anchoring Crash Course, the 4-day Killer Influence, and or 5-day Killer Influence if you're one of the first 15. July 7th, 16th through, I got to change the dates on that. It's July, actually. I was rushing through this, so I missed this. It's July 16th. In San Diego. Hold on a second. You get it all for one low installment of just $9.97. Or, if you prefer, you can do it all in 3 easy payments of just $3.99. There should be a link to your right or left there. Go ahead and reach out to Stephanie, Brandon, or Henry. They can help you out with that. And I'm going to see if I can pull up the chat and look at people's questions. Where the heck is the chat? Sorry about that, guys. I lost all my windows. Chat, where's my chat? Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I couldn't find my chat window, so I couldn't see the questions. Okay. Okay, let's see here. All right. Do we get this deal when I come to Australia? Not sure I understand the question, Alessia. Brandon Burr. Okay. Where's the link? Is that the link for all? Yes. Cool. Stephanie says I need to be in San Diego. Excellent. Okay. So you guys are.
I was hoping you saw that, David.
I did. I did. It took me a while. My chat kept disappearing. So I was like, what the heck? So yeah, I'm just going to give it a few minutes for people to reach out to Stephanie or Brandon or Henry. They're in the chat. They can help you. I'm going to go ahead and put, Stephanie, go ahead and put your email and your phone number in the chat in case people have questions that, or other things. We do offer payment plans. So like I said, everybody on the webinar today qualifies for the regular $9.97 package. The first 15 to register for today will get that extra 5th bonus day. And that is only good as long as I'm teaching today. The minute I log off the webinar and it goes into replay mode, that offer goes away, okay? As does the VIP super ticket, okay? So for people who pick this, this replay up later, you'll still get the Killer Influence Secrets of Covert Hypnosis course valued at $1,497, the Speed Attraction Rapid Attraction Secrets program, $1,497 value, the Stealth Selling Secrets Sales and Interview Crash Course, $497 value, the Anchors in Action NLP Anchoring Crash Course, $97 value, the Lie to Me If You Dare, How to Catch a Liar Home Study Course valued at $97, and the Energy Hypnosis Speed Healing Rapid Healing Crash Course also valued at $97. And you'll get, but only the people who are on the webinar now, first 35, will get the super ticket. The live event goes away when the webinar stops. First 15 people are going to get an extra day. Okay, so just so I make sure that I'm not confusing anybody. Is anybody not understand what I've just explained? Would I please talk about anchoring? What would you like to know about anchoring, Amy? That's right. You can't buy this on the website. You have to go through the links that we sent you. This is you're not going to find this on the website if you look for it. It's only available through the webinar. Anchoring is if you think of Pavlov, anchoring is like a stimulus response program. You can take a sound, a feeling, a touch, a gesture, a word, and link a feeling or a behavior to it. When those two things become connected, one triggers the other. NLP calls those an anchor. The formal term, when we talk about it, would be operant conditioning. But human beings are natural anchoring machines. They do it automatically. If you've ever been driving down the road feeling blue or in a bad mood and your favorite song comes on the radio and all of a sudden you feel so much better, welcome to anchors. If you have a favorite shirt or a lucky pair of shoes or a certain ritual that you go through before you do an activity, welcome to the world of anchoring. These are behaviors or items that have a certain process or feeling neurologically linked to them, so that the activation or the presence of one creates the emergence of the other. There's many ways to work with anchors. Human beings, when they're first learning, this is one of the primary forms of learning that human beings have. And we'll show you about how to work with that and how to operate with it. That's correct, Stephanie. Okay. Okay. Does that help, Amy? Cool. Awesome. All right. So if it's okay with you, let's take 5 minutes, run to the restroom, grab some coffee, and then we're going to come back. You can finish processing your orders or whatever you're doing with Stephanie or Brandon or Henry. When we come back, we're going to jump into a process we call the 3 Magic Questions Protocol, which is a process that will allow you to go from complete stranger to trusted advisor, friend, mentor, or romantic partner in as little as 20 minutes if you rush it. But if you take your time, it can take longer and it usually works better. But it's that reliable. We're going to show you how to do that. 1+7 is asking me, hold on a second, I gotta expand my chat box here. So what book for conversational hypnosis would you suggest for an intermediate hypnotist? That's a good question. Maybe one of the most user-friendly books out there is called Unlimited Selling Power by Donald Moyne. Unlimited Selling Power is probably a good one for intermediate hypnotists, but it has a more of a sales and business twist to it. There's some courses out there by Bill, I think it's O'Hanlon. That I really like. He's got some good books on conversational and Ericksonian hypnosis. All right, so let's take 5 minutes. When we come back, we're going to jump into 3 magic questions. All right, Ahmed's asking, what is the best way to draw in more abundance in our lives? At the risk of sounding like I'm pimping something, there's a course we have coming up July 5th through the 7th. It's going to be a virtual class. It's called Hidden Laws of Attraction and Manifestation Mastery Virtual Bootcamp. And in it, we're going to talk to you about how to reprogram your subconscious mind to manifest abundance, generate more luck, more charisma, more serendipitous events, and how to remove your limiting beliefs to abundance and money and all kinds of cool stuff. So Stephanie has the information on that. Stephanie, can you plug in the sales page for the Hidden Laws of Attraction course if people are interested in that?
I can and I will.
Okay, thank you. And I'll be right back. I just got to do one thing. All right. Get your agua, get a drink, get some coffee. So G is saying to everyone, I was hoping it's on a Monday bonus day, so the flight is cheaper. Yeah, we'll burn those bridges when we come to it. We will find ways to make sure everybody can get to this class and that they get the biggest bang for their buck from the bonus days, from the live events, and so forth. We're excited because, you know, as good as our virtual events are, and as good as our courses are, our live events are orders of magnitude more powerful. And so anytime we can do a live event, we will choose to do that before doing anything virtual. So, does anybody have any other questions for me? Stephanie is available in the chats. Brandon and Henry are in the background, swearing off doing Zoom as a webinar format ever again, but they're good people. They'll make sure you get your products in the shortest amount of time possible. And by the way, all of these courses are actually 100% digital download, and so you get immediate access to them once your order's been processed. And then Stephanie will reach out to you regarding your VIP tickets and so forth. Anybody have any other questions that I can help you with?
David?
Yes.
So, yes, contact me for if you purchase a package. I'll be contacting you as well, but if you ever have any questions, you can email me, stephanie@nlppower.com, and my phone is 858-282-4663. I've been putting it in the chat, but the other thing, David, is the dates are incorrect. It's the 15th through the 18th, July 15th through the 18th are the dates, and then the bonus day would be the 19th.
Okay, my bad. I was checking the dates off another PowerPoint, so it's 15th through the 18th,
Correct.
and then the bonus day would be the 19th.
Would be the 19th, correct. And we do, Guado was asking, the contract with the hotel is those dates, so I'm not sure that we can change that, but you know, I can always talk to David and see.
And again, depending on the size of the group,
Yeah.
If that hotel for some reason isn't available, my clinic holds quite a number of people. We'll move it to my clinic and we'll do it in Solana Beach. If we can do a live, if I have a choice between doing a virtual and doing a live, I will choose to do the live event. But I'm pretty good at manifesting, so we'll see what happens, right? But we'll find a way to make this happen for you guys. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that being said, you guys ready to go into 3 Magic Questions protocol? This means yes. This means no. Okay. I'm going to try to stop sharing my screen. This is a good time to take notes because this is once again, and we'll come back and revisit this at the end of the webinar. But I wanted to make sure that those of you who needed to go could take advantage of the opportunity before they turned into pumpkins, and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out of the PowerPoint for now. And let's talk about 3 Magic Questions protocol. 3 Magic Questions protocol, for those of you who are curious, was originally designed as a date selection process for women to use on men. Yes, that's right. It was designed for women to use on men. And if this process is followed properly, you can make pretty much anyone, I modified it so men could use it equally well with women, or gender actually doesn't matter. It's understanding the structure, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Because, interestingly enough, you can take this protocol, even though it was designed for attraction, dating, and romance, and transplant it right into a business meeting context, right into a jury selection process, right into a prospect client or prospect provider relationship, and it works perfectly well. If you want to dominate at networking and networking functions or social media functions, this is one of the most important processes that will make you the most fascinating conversationalist anyone you talk to has ever had, and it will completely eliminate the stuttering and the uncertainties, and you'll know exactly what to say, how to say it with anyone you talk to, and you will simultaneously prime them to like, trust, and even love you in as little as 20 minutes. Okay. Now, some people take longer, but in the test when it was run, the effects were felt in as little as 20 minutes. So that being said, let's talk about this. The 3 Magic Questions protocol. Let me go ahead and close the chat real quick. The 3 Magic Questions protocol is designed to stimulate the level of interest and intimacy on a progressively deeper level. Okay. It creates in the subject intense emotional bonding while at the same time facilitating self-disclosure in the listener or the person being queried. It allows the operator to simultaneously attract, analyze, and make a qualifying determination as to the subject's suitability for deeper levels of intimacy and relationships or romance. So level 1 questions, right? Get out a piece of paper, write this down. Level 1 questions are location, occasion. Let me see if I can share my screen and I can diagram some of this stuff out for you. This one takes a little bit of diagramming, so. Here we go. Oh, good. I can actually share my screen this time. Cool. So let me go make this bigger. And we'll put that away. So when we talk about 3 Magic Questions, 3MQ is a code for 3 categories of question. Okay. Each category of the question stimulates a more primal and deeper level of the subject's mind, creating intense bonding and self-disclosure in a short amount of time. It allows you as the operator, the person actually initiating the process, to simultaneously attract, analyze, and qualify the subject's suitability or unsuitability for deeper intimacy and relationships or interactions. Those interactions, now, it doesn't have to be, when I say deeper intimacy and relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean romantic. Like I said, I have personal injury attorneys who are using this all over the world to create powerful, emotionally connected juries, so that by the time the case even gets to court, the jury likes the lawyer so much that they automatically vote for whoever he's representing or she is representing. This was originally designed for women to use with men. I've modified it so that either gender can use it either way, with either context or in any context. So a couple of things before we get into these 3 levels. Now, I'll give you the overview of the levels. The first level is what we call location occasion. These are superficial questions about the venue or the subject's reason for being there. Okay. I'll give you a quick example. One of my students came to one of my workshops one time, and he went to a bar, local bar that night, walked up to a woman he was attracted to, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "Hey, curious, what are the drinks special? What do you think of them?" Right? It was a non-threatening, superficial question about the venue or the subject's reason for being there. Now, a couple of rules you want to follow when you're using 3 Magic Questions. First and foremost, always ask open-ended questions. In other words, you never want to ask a question that can be answered yes or no. Because the moment they say yes or no, the conversation stops. So everything that you want to ask should result in one of 2 things: an opinion or a story. You understand that? When you start talking to people, people relate to one another through the stories that they tell and the opinions that they give. Now, you want to be using the echo technique throughout the entire process. Okay? So you can literally walk up to someone and say, "So, hey, what do you think of the band?" So I'll give you some quick examples of superficial questions. You're at a wedding reception. What do you think of the band or bar? Are you here with which side are you with, the bride or the groom? It's probably not a good one. I'll go back to our wedding reception metaphor. What do you think of the centerpiece? What's your favorite band? Weird little thing. Non-threatening questions. These are, again, the idea behind a level 1 question is it's designed to redirect a person's focus of attention. So level 1 questions, their purpose, well, let me move this down. Direct focus of attention. And let me see if I can diagram this for you a little bit so we can understand how this kind of works. I'm going to have to move this over to the side a little bit. All right, so let me get my little handy dandy pen and I'm going to draw this. When human beings move through the world, they move through the world in one of 4 basics, or one combination of one of 4 basic states. They can either be internally oriented or externally oriented. They can be associated or dissociated. Internal means they're in their head making pictures, thinking about what they're going to do next. They're making laundry lists. They got to pick up the groceries. They got to take the kid to the dog to the vet. They got to pick up the dry cleaning. They're in their head, not paying attention to anything going on outside of them. External means they're present. They're in the moment. They're observing what's going on around them. Associated means that they are fully engaged. Like if you think of video games, like if you're seeing something through your own eyes, that's associated. But if you're seeing yourself in a picture, we call that a dissociated version. Now, most people are moving through the world in an internal dissociated state. In other words, they're not connected to anything. They're not thinking about, they're not present. They're anywhere but with you. Level 1 questions are designed to flip the script on that focus of attention. It's designed to move people from an internal to an external and from a dissociated to an associated. So this is what we want. We want an external associated. We want them in the world paying attention to us. When we have that, now all of the tools we've covered so far, echo technique, criterion values, and the rest of the 3MQ process are now ultra powerful because we have their attention. Without attention, your attempts at influence usually fail. So once again, just like I said before, attention is the currency of relationships. But the only reason for level 1 questions is to get people, hold on a second, I've got to turn off my drawing program, is to get people out of their head and in the world relating to you. And to do it in a non-threatening way. Out in the real world, people are very, very, very sensitive to certain kinds of questions. And if you ask the wrong kind of question, their defenses go up. If you, to use a dating example, if you approach a woman with sex on your mind, even if you just said hello, it would set off all her creep alarms. Okay, so the level 1 question process of the 3 magic questions is designed specifically to redirect focus of attention from internal dissociated to external associated in a non-threatening way, in a way that doesn't set off any alarms. There will still be, in many cases, some initial defensiveness or wariness, but the more playful you are, the faster those defenses go down. Okay, So that's those are the only purposes of level 1, is to get you in a dialogue with the person that is non-threatening, that is safe, that gets them talking, so that you now have things that you can echo. Okay, let me just jump back to, let me move this down a little bit. Let me stop sharing and go to questions. Questions about this so far? Are we good on level 1 questions? Type in the chat. Excellent. Okay. So remember, in the old pickup and seduction parlance, there was this thing called opinion openers. Opinion openers can work very well as level 1 questions, but again, depending on the energy you bring to the interaction. And again, I'm using dating, but I have very, very successful business people and therapy practitioners out there utilizing this everywhere. If you just go out and just make this your natural way of relating to everyone you meet, people will fall in love with you just by talking. Okay, but level 1 is one of the biggest problems we have in social dynamics and interactions, is breaking the ice, is making the approach and getting people into a dialogue and to keep the dialogue going. The next phase of 3 magic questions is designed to take us to a more intimate level, but it's still a safe level of a person's mind, and generate passion, pleasure, playfulness, trust, chemistry, and connection, while at the same time doing 2 things: generating attraction in the person that is answering the questions, and priming them to give you more information voluntarily. In other words, when you do this process effectively, they will volunteer information to you. And you can use that information to decide if there's someone you want to have a more intimate relationship with. And again, when I say intimate, I don't necessarily mean a romantic intimacy. It could be someone you want to do business with, someone you want to hire, someone you want to have as a friend, or to take care of your children. One of the beautiful things about 3 magic questions is it generates an extremely powerful, practically irresistible level of rapport and bonding with a person. And what happens as a byproduct of that is it becomes harder and harder for someone to lie to you and still be congruent. In other words, if they lie, you'll literally see them break their state and break the connection they have with you to generate a deception. And so it becomes increasingly harder and harder for people to perpetrate deceptions on you when you utilize this process effectively. So we're going into level 2 questions, and level 2 questions is where the real meat of the interaction happens. In level 2 questions are questions that you ask about one of several topics: careers, passions, or pleasures. All right. One of the people I first learned that one of my inspirations for 3 magic questions was a man who wrote a book called Love Trances. His name was Craig Ravinsky. And in his book, when he was doing palm reading, he says, every man on the planet has an idea for a book or a business. And I found that to be true. But now every woman I meet practically also has an idea for a book or a business. Now those things are very close to their sense of identity and their sense of desire for what they want their life to be. So when you get them talking about those things, they light up like a Christmas tree. Okay, so questions that you want to ask at level 2 are always going to be about career, passion, or pleasures. And the reason that the original version that I was taught, you only ever asked about career, because in modern society, you are what you do. In other words, when you ask somebody what they do for a living, they almost always say, I am a manager, I am a accountant, I am a neuro-linguistic programmer, I am a therapist, I am a salesman, I am an entrepreneur. Anytime you hear the words I am, what you're hearing is what we call an identity statement. Now remember at the beginning of the webinar, I told you that a person's criteria and values are the pillars, the building blocks of a person's sense of identity and self. Well, what you do as a profession becomes part of your identity as well. And that's why many times when a person loses their livelihood, they also lose other parts of their life. Their relationship goes south. They're estranged from their families. And one of the reasons that happens is because when they lose that job, they lose a piece of their identity and they don't know who they are anymore. When you flip the script on that and you get people talking about the things that are most deeply held at their identity level, they go into a profound pleasure state. And they will run off at the mouth about those things. And who are they looking at? Who are they looking at when all of those wonderful things are coming out of their mouth? Type it in the chat. Who are they looking at? That's right. They're looking at you. Guess who gets linked to all those amazing things? Right? And here's the best part. All you do is ask your question, agree, echo their words back, ask another question. And they will run off at the mouth happily. Now, certain things will happen at level 2 that you want to be aware of. First and foremost, they will talk more. Let them. The longer they talk, the more connected to you they're becoming. The second thing is they will start to tell stories. And you want them telling stories. The more stories they tell, the deeper into a love trance they go. And they're looking at you when that happens. But when they're telling their story, you must pay attention to the words they use when they tell their stories to you. Okay? And when you do that, lost my train of thought. When you do that, but when you pay attention to their words, a process is going to happen in you. You may have experienced this. If you've ever been out with someone, a friend, or it doesn't matter if it's a date, but they're telling a story about this great trip they took or this adventure they went on, and as soon as they're telling the story, your brain starts looking for a similar experience in your life that you had. Have you guys ever had this happen? Type it in the chat if you've had it happen. What you're experiencing is a variation of what neurolinguistic programming calls a transderivational search. It's your brain search for meaning, but something else is going on a social dynamics level. And in our world, we call that phenomena analog matching. In other words, when I tell you a story about a great experience I had, or a great vacation I took, or a bad experience I had for that matter, your brain automatically starts sifting for a time in your life that was as close to what I'm talking about as possible, right? And then it spits that up to your awareness. It reminds you of that time, and then you wait patiently for me to stop talking so you can tell your story. Has anybody ever had this experience? Okay. You want that to happen, but here's how you change it. Here's how you amplify that phenomena that's going to happen anyway to make it utterly irresistible. When those moments occur, and it's time for you to tell your story, tell your story, but use their words to do it. Right? Tell their story, but use their words to do it. And you will see them light up like a Christmas tree. They will just glow. You'll see their eyes get brighter, their pupils will dilate, they'll lean forward, they'll be hanging on every word. The secret though is, don't carry on too long, because it's not about you. There has to be a conversation, there has to be a dialogue, which means both sides have to talk. But what you say and how you say it should always be, they should always be doing the lion's share of the talking. And they will want to. And they will come away from that experience thinking you are the best, most fascinating conversationalist they've ever had, and they will not be able to wait to see you again. Now, what's going to happen as a hypnotic operator, as someone who's using this for its secondary purpose, which is to facilitate qualification. In other words, you're as a person utilizing this phenomena, you are always testing the other person. You are taking the information that they're giving you and funneling it into the yes and no categories. Is this something I like? Does it work for me? Does it match me? Does it what I want? Is it something I don't want? And you have to make some hard decisions at level 2 questions. Is this someone who I want to have a deeper intimate relationship with or not. If it isn't, either eject or stay at level 2 questions. If it's somebody you want to take deeper, moving towards feelings of intimacy and love and timelessness, so to speak, that's when you go into level 3 questions. Level 3 questions are early positive childhood experiences. So a simple question might be, so I'm curious, where are you from? Who were your friends? What did you play at when you were a kid? What was your favorite thing to do? Right? Those kinds of questions take a person deeper inside their own history, their own chronology, and they have them access and open up their early primal memories. And the reason for that, let me ask you this. Have you ever met somebody that even it's your first time meeting them, and within 5, 10, 15 minutes of talking, you felt like you've known them your entire life? It's like you can just remember them. You feel like that always. You've all had that experience, right? And for most of us, it happens randomly. When you take the person to level 3 of the 3 magic questions, it happens automatically, because a person's earliest childhood memories are the foundation of everything they are. Now, when you engage a person accessing a memory, you generate what NLP calls pseudo-orientation in time, or otherwise known as time distortion. And when you have a person come up and start talking about that memory, they access all the feelings that were implicit in that experience. And they're looking at you when those memories are accessed. So 2 things happen simultaneously. A, you link the power of those memories to yourself. That's 1. B, you insert yourself into the memory. And so now you've inserted yourself into if they're 40 years old and the memory happened when they were 10, you've now inserted yourself with 30 years of history into their life. And so all of a sudden they feel like they've known you for those 30 years. Okay? So be very, very careful when you do this for several reasons. A, make sure that they give you the information you ask for. In other words, let's say we're at level 2 questions, right? And you ask somebody about, what they love about their job, right? What they find exciting and thrilling about it. And they start going off on how the boss is an asshole, all their coworkers are jealous and lazy and don't do their fair share, right? First of all, did they give you the information you asked for? Say no, right? Second of all, what does that tell you about their world and the way they move through the world? Does it paint them as somebody who is empowered or entitled, who's a victim or a warrior, who goes for what they want or blames people? They will get just as happy talking about the bad shit as they will talk about the good shit, because they're talking about their favorite subject themselves. But there's a difference. You asked for a certain kind of information, they gave you a different kind of information. Either way, it's going to tell you something about who that person is underneath the surface. And you have to use that information. You have to use that information to decide what kind of a relationship you want to have. Because it will generate attraction from both sides. It will generate attraction in you. It'll generate attraction in the other person. The difference is you're running the program. And so you need to have the state control to evaluate the information that you're getting and decide if this is someone you want to have. Male, female, female, female to female, male, it doesn't matter. There will be an A and a B to this. A is the person navigating the conversation using the template. Person B is the person responding to the questions and telling the stories. And they're the person that you need to manage. You're always testing the other person to make sure they fit your model, they fit your world. We're no longer searching for people who have potential. If in the process of using your 3 magic questions protocol, you make the determination that they're not a fit, cut the conversation and eject in a way that's socially not going to cripple them, but at the same time, it helps you to circumvent weeks and weeks of dating, binge dieting, new wardrobes, the whole 9 yards. Women love this. It's a great process for men. But remember, from this moment on, when you employ the 3 Magic Questions protocol, you're the prize. You're the one evaluating the suitability of the other person, and that gives you the power, right? If you like what the person is saying, you like how they're expressing themselves, and you want to take it further, then you make that arbitrary distinction to decide to transition from level 2 to level 3. And a 3 Magic Questions process can be 20 minutes, it can be 20 hours, depending on how into it you are. And you can keep somebody at level 2 for days, for consecutive dates if you want to, right? But at some point, people will tend to spontaneously spiral into those more internal, intimate questions. But the whole 3 Magic Question process, location, occasion, career, passion, pleasure, early positive childhood experiences, that's the template that you follow. Now, there's one last thing I'm going to give you about how to make this work for you. And it's a concept that doesn't seem like a big deal when we talk about it, but it's one of the things that separates the truly amazing and adept conversationalists, whether you're a neurolinguistic programmer or Ericksonian hypnotist or whatever, from the rest. And that is called softening. Softening is a way of pre-framing and lubricating the question you're about to ask. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint and just write a few softeners for you so you can follow this. So some softeners, hold on, I got to share my screen. So some common softeners would be let me ask you this. So I'm curious. I was wondering, just so I understand you better. Softeners allow you to ask what would on the surface seem to be very, very invasive questions and make them seem less threatening or less blunt and jarring. Okay, so these are just some examples. I would recommend you write these down and then keep writing. But a softener is always a little pre-frame. So you might say, well, let me ask you this. I was wondering what you find most fascinating about what you do. Simple level 2 question. Another one might be, so I'm curious, how did you come to be an X, whatever it is? I bet there is an origin story there, right? I was wondering where you see yourself 5 years from now. Are you still doing X or something better? Right? Just so I understand you better. What's important about this job to you? You get it? You see how it's soft? If I were to walk upstairs, I was, what do you find most fascinating about what you do versus, let me ask you this. I was wondering what you find most fascinating about what you do. Again, say it out loud without the softener, then add the softener to it, and notice how it lubricates. It doesn't make it less powerful. It makes it less invasive and threatening. It doesn't create a reactant response in the listener. Okay? Questions on that? You do the softening with all the levels. Level 2 and 3 especially, but it's usually good to soften with level 1 questions too. Here's the secret. You will never go wrong softening. And what really, really separates the powerful NLP practitioners, the powerful masters of conversational hypnosis and social dynamics, is their ability to soften the techniques so that they don't trigger a reactant response in people. There's a lot of times when you use, one of the reasons that NLP doesn't work as well as it could is because it's so powerful. And what I mean by that is when you use an NLP technique on somebody, they feel the effect of it, even if they don't know what you did, but they know you did something. And because they know you did something, their guard goes up. When you soften, you blunt and neutralize that invasive clubbing them over the head with a powerful technique feel, and it feels natural, it feels normal and gentle and comfortable. And when people are comfortable, they become less analytical of the things you say and ask them to do. They become more suggestible to you. You should always practice out loud. In fact, it's going to be helpful for you to keep a list of softeners by your phone, by your computer, and every time you talk, use them. What would be an example of a level 3 question? So I'm curious, what did you love to do when you were a kid? Who were your friends? What did you play at? One of my favorites is, who was your first crush? Who was your secret crush? Right? And I'll do it in a little playful conspiratorial way. Who did you really have a crush on? Right? Who are your heroes? Chris Stombaugh, one of my top students who's a personal injury attorney, one of his favorite questions when he's deposing or working with juries is to ask people, so I'm curious, who were your heroes growing up? Who did you want to be like when you were a kid? Right? And boom, the act of reliving and bringing up those feelings links them to Chris. And Chris creates amazing levels of bonding and connection with everybody he does this on. I have personally seen on video people waiving their attorney-client privilege to answer his questions. Expert witnesses for the opposition waiving the attorney-client privilege because they liked Chris so much that they thought he was just cool to tell them anything they wanted, right? And yeah, you would use this at all levels, okay? But remember, there's a sequence. Level 1 transitions to level 2, gather your information, and make a decision. Sometimes you'll spontaneously drop to a level 3. It's just a natural transition point in the conversation. But don't stay there unless you're sure you want to link yourself in this person's life to that level. And this is especially true when you're dealing with people who are narcissistic, borderlines, have a lot of codependency issues. Because if you do this with people who have those kind of fuses, you may wind up with a stalker. This process creates a very, very deep, very, very powerful, intimate connection with people that is not easy to break. So use them with respect. Pardon my itchy nose. Use them with respect and always be testing. Never transition to level 3 if you have any doubt about this person. You can get pretty much anything you want from level 1 and 2. You don't need to lock them in at a level 3 question unless it's someone you really want to be a more intimate part of your life. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So I see there's 89 or so. So do you have any other questions about any of the processes we talked about? The ECHO technique, the criterion values process, the 3 magic questions protocol. Okay. Any one of them by themselves is awesome. When you combine these, you're gonna radiate and exude confidence, charisma, connection. People are gonna make excuses to hang out with you more. But don't believe me. Take the ECHO technique, go out into the world and play with it and watch what happens. Watch what happens with people, okay? But be respectful, okay? As simple as the ECHO technique is, if you start using this on your waiter, your baristas, your waiters, they tend to like you a lot, which means they'll spend a lot of time talking to you, which in the end might bring you a free dessert, but it could also get them fired because they'll start ignoring the other customers. So utilize this process, all of these processes, in a fun, playful, explorational way, and pay attention to the results that you get. And try to get caught. Try to get caught. Okay? So question asked. Yeah, absolutely. Let's say the question was, can you please go over how to link their emotion to your product or service in the emotional bonding process? Absolutely. Let's say we're talking about a house, all right? And actually, let's go back to our martial arts metaphor, okay? And I know my clients' words. I know what's important to them. And I'll say, Bernice, what's really important is as Josh goes through our process, he'll rapidly discover all the many powers and abilities that martial arts gives to him. And he'll do it in such a way that he'll spontaneously develop a greater sense of self-confidence and self-esteem. His focus will automatically begin to exponentially grow, and he'll be focused, laser targeted, and being able to take in more information powerfully, because the martial arts allows people to integrate their mind and their body and their breath in ways that amplify a person's natural ability to focus and pay attention, which leads to a greater level of self-esteem because they learn faster, they feel smarter, and when they gain that ability to absolutely protect themselves and stand up to those bullies, they feel better about themselves physically, which translates into more confidence, safety, and security, which leads to a better life socially, academically, and professionally. He'll be the best version of himself naturally as a byproduct of all the amazing things that working through our martial arts program will do for him. So that being said, what's the next step we need to take to get Josh on that path? Get it? Not a problem. It's actually quite easy when you have their words, because all you have to do is say their word and point out the aspect of your product or service that directly gives it to them. So as a product of learning how to break boards, he'll learn focus and confidence, and that he can summon up his inner power. By learning our specialized breathing patterns, he'll automatically have more focus and concentration that will equate to his ability to do better in school. And as he learns how to punch and kick and how and when to use these self-defense skills, he'll be more confident and know exactly when to stand up for himself, when it's worth fighting for, and when it isn't. And so he'll naturally be able to protect himself socially, mentally, and physically. Right? So you have their words, you have the aspects of your product or service. Use your language to keep them connected. And the longer you do that, the more they'll tend to do business with you by default. Now, when you're utilizing criteria and values in a romance context, it's not enough to just have them talk about it. That'll get the ball rolling. But when they start describing the characteristics of their ideal person, you must now embody and express those traits and qualities and characteristics. And you must do things behaviorally that they classify as embodying or representing those attributes. And so the more you get them to talk about things they've done that they enjoyed with other people, the more you can start to model that and embody it. Now, that being said, be very careful, because the harder you have to work to attract somebody, generally speaking, the harder you have to work to keep them. And so criteria and values also, and through magic questions, becomes a very powerful way to find the best matches for you that give you the sense of, this is the right person for me, okay, instead of running west looking for a sunrise. Okay. How do you ask for someone to share their character? I usually start by self-disclosing. You know, when I first, you remind me of a person I used to date a long time ago, and I really are a really close friend that I had a long time ago, and you talk about your past relationships. You see, one of the things that primes people to self-disclose is self-disclosure. So if I lead with something intimate, that signals a desire for intimacy on my part, and it triggers an intimacy response. This is actually where a lot of dates go wrong. because women in their quest for intimacy self-disclose, and men in their quest for sex overly self-disclose. And the problem is neither one listens. Women actually listen better than men. But like a lot of times when a woman really likes a guy, really likes a guy, and they go out, she'll start talking nonstop about all the things that are very private and very personal, very important to her. And for a man, she never hears from him again because, she's talking about what she thinks about in relationships, what she wants out of life, and he's thinking, oh my God, she wants to marry me, right, on the first date. And so you never hear from him again. And the reason for that is that men can't handle the level of self-disclosure that women automatically give in their quest for intimacy and connection. And so it scares the man off. So women have to be a little bit less self-disclosing. And usually there's a certain psychographic of women for whom this is. Usually these women are very aggressive or assertive in their desire to get someone. When they see a person they're attracted to, they go after them and usually wind up scaring them away. One of the reasons is because of the too much disclosure for a guy. You have to feed guys in little sips of intimacy. Men kind of err on the other side. They don't want to reveal anything that might be construed as weakness or intimate or potentially embarrassing. But when a man does that, it demonstrates strength of character, someone who's willing to be open, and it opens the floodgates to intimacy and sexuality. So there's a different way of priming people to self-disclose. The best way to do it is by going first. If you want to create an intimate interaction, start by giving something that is unusual or unique. In my advanced course in Killer Influence, we have what we call the 36 magic bullets. 36 magic bullets are 36 very specific questions that if you do at least 9 of them, and both sides of the conversation answer these questions in the course of a 90-minute period, a lot of these people wind up getting into long-term relationships. And it was a set of questions that was discovered by accident by social scientists who were trying to research something else. And they created this tool to help them research this something else and didn't realize what they'd done with these 36 questions. So I've modified those as an extension of the 3 magic questions process. And they're all about self-disclosure and discussing very non-usual topics. So, but that's how you get people to kind of transition into those things. Am I teasing you with a tool? Of course. I told you what I was teaching you was part of the system. I'm giving you some gold chunks, but there's a whole system here that we've developed and we've been testing for the last 15 years. But a lot of you are veterans, but a lot of you have never don't know David Snyder from Adam. And so my job in this webinar is to give you something real, something you can take a hold of, go out into the field and prove it to yourself. And when you're ready for the next step, you know where to go. If you've already had some experience or you're ready to go to the next step, just click the link that we're going to talk about, or grab the package that we just finished talking about earlier and get one of those bonus seats, get that extra day of personal one-on-one work with me. And we'll get you from where you are to where you want to be in the shortest amount of time possible. There's always going to be more to learn. And a couple of things that I want you to know, if you take nothing else away from the webinar. In the realm of persuasion and influence, it's not how much you know. It's what you do with what you have. That's important. It's what you do with what you have. The other piece is that in the realm where most people know nothing, a little bit of properly applied information changes the day. If you learn nothing from this webinar but the ECHO technique, your life is going to change. Don't believe me? Go play with it. If you just use criterion values elicitation, the emotional bonding checklist, your life is going to change. You're going to make more money. You're going to find better friends. You're going to hire better employees. You're going to get hired by better companies. You're going to lead your teams more effectively. Your life is going to change. If you just do the 3 magic questions protocol, you will know people better, faster, and create deeper, longer lasting connections anywhere, under any circumstance, anytime you use it. You'll be able to automatically generate attraction and sort people into categories that allow you to decide who gets the primary real estate in your life. If you can combine them, you get a whole that's greater than the sum of the parts. Right? And that's my goal. My goal is to bring you in, teach you something real, show you where to go for more. And I hope I've done that. Okay? So real quick, if it's okay, I'd just like to review that offer that we talked about earlier. Some of you might have missed it if you checked in earlier. Hold on a second. So for today only, guys, you can get a complete home study package, which is our Killer Influence Secrets of Covert Hypnosis home study course, valued at $1,497. We'll also throw in the Speed Attraction, Rapid Attraction Secrets home study course, valued at $1,497. We'll also give you the Stealth Selling Secrets Sales and Interview Success Crash Course, $497 value. We're going to throw in the Anchors in Action NLP Anchoring Crash Course, which teaches you the nuts and bolts of NLP style anchoring and how to modify it for business applications. We'll teach you the Energy Hypnosis Speed Healing, Rapid Healing Secrets course, valued at $97. We're also going to throw in the Lie to Me If You Dare. Dare home study course, also valued at $97. And for those of you who are among the first 35 to enroll in before the end of the webinar, we're going to throw in a super VIP ticket for our 4-day Killer Influence Certification Live Boot Camp here in San Diego. And it was, you said it was July 15th to 18th. And for those who are the first 15 to register, you're going to get an extra bonus day on July 19th, where we sit down for 8 hours, and it's just you, me, and a small group of people. And we're gonna drill down on your specific persuasion sticking points. We're gonna customize persuasion plans. We'll go into topics and methodologies that we didn't maybe cover during the regular class. We'll drill down deeper on things. It's your private mentoring class, and it's gonna be a limited group. So total value, if you were to try to get that whole, and that doesn't even count the extra value on the 5th bonus day. Total value, if you would try to buy this on the website, which you can't, will be $6,679, but we're not going to charge that. We're not even going to charge you $4,167. We're not going to charge you $2,697. You can get all of this for one low price, or one low installment of $997, or 3 easy installments of just $399. So Stephanie's waiting to take your, hold on a second. Stephanie waiting to take your order or to answer any questions that you have. Don't mind me, I had to rush through this PowerPoint before today's webinar, so I didn't get to make a lot of the changes I wanted to make. So I'm finding all my, oops, that didn't work. July 15th to 18th plus 19, 2020. And again, that course will be taught live, and we're assuming right now that the hotel will be available. So we plan on being butts in seats. If not, we will be doing it live virtually. You can click the link to your right there. And again, you can do it in one low installment of $997, or you can do 3 payments of $399. And that'll reserve your spot. Remember that the VIP ticket offer goes away when the webinar ends. So if you're on live, this is your only chance to get one of those live VIP tickets. People who watch your replay, you're more than welcome to purchase the video courses, but the live event ticket will not be available. Okay, it will not be available. Okay. And while I'm hanging out, I'll pull up my chat, and I'll take any questions that people might have. As soon as I can find my chat. For some reason, my chat's not showing up again. No, that's not it. Oh, there we go. So Mihal, oh, A lot of people are messaging me privately. Thank you, David. I've been following your YouTube videos for years. It was elated when I saw your seminar. I saw many, like many at this time. I am unable. Okay. Is there a specific order to go through the lessons? Dan, I would start with killer influence. Then and then depending on whether you're more focused on attraction applications or business, then I would transition, either go from killer influence to speed attraction or killer influence to stealth selling secrets. And then circle back and then do anchors in action. And then follow up with whatever course you didn't get. So again, there's two funnels. If you're focused on business applications, let me write this in the chat room. If you're focused on business apps, sales, marketing, whatever, you go killer influence, then you go stealth selling secrets. Then I would do anchors in action, circle back and do rapid attraction secrets. If you're primarily focused on romantic applications, I would start with killer influence, transition to rapid attraction secrets, follow up with anchors in action, actually, I would actually do energy hypnosis here. And the reason for that is because energy hypnosis is something that you can actually use out in the field to get rid of stage fright, nervousness. You can also use it as a way to enhance pleasure and do really cool hypnotic things out in the field. So I would play with that. And then I would come back and finish with stealth selling secret. So that optimally, there are your two tracks right there. Yeah, and yeah, I forgot about Lie to Me. Lie to Me would probably be good right after Killer Influence. So I would do Killer Influence, Lie to Me if you dare, and then either stealth selling or rapid attraction secrets. But those would be the two ways I would organize the material, depending on what your priority is. If you know you're interested in seduction and attraction applications, go with the former, or the latter rather. If you're interested in business and marketing, sales, persuasion, mediation, presentation. Do narcissists have these skills naturally? Do they know they're using them? Many narcissists do possess a lot of these skills, but actually they're far more manipulative, and a lot of them don't know what they do that makes them effective. But a lot of them do many of these things naturally. However, there are certain behavioral characteristics and the way people respond in conversation that flag them as narcissists. And in the live training that we'll be doing in July, we'll be covering all 22 of them, so that while you're doing 3 Magic Questions protocol or interacting with them, the moment they start lapsing into these behaviors, the little red flags will go off left and right. And there will be some required reading for the counter manipulation portions, so be very aware of that. If someone is using this on us, what should we do? Decide if you want what they're selling. You know, that's the big thing that these tools give you more than anything else, is the gift of awareness. And what I mean by that is, I tell my students of influence, and when you come to Killer Influence in July, either virtually or in person, one of my jobs as a teacher is to teach you how to become more aware of yourself internally and externally, aware of the world around you. Because anything that's outside of your awareness is outside of your control. Write that down. Anything that's outside of your awareness is outside of your control. Now, just because it's outside of your awareness doesn't mean it isn't influencing you. It doesn't mean it's not having an effect. So the courses we teach are designed to do several things: to make you aware of these technologies and to give you the ability to perceive them. Because once you perceive what's being done, you can get to choose how to respond. Without that awareness, there is no choice. It's only a matter of time before these influences affect you. So part of our job at NLP Power is to make sure you have the ability to perceive and respond appropriately. If after you become aware of what a person is doing, you decide, in spite of their, or because, in addition to the influence they're exerting, that you want what they're selling or what they're offering, go into it with an informed mindset. If, however, you don't, you're no longer at the mercy of those techniques or that individual. You have things you can do, and you can turn tails on them. You can meta model the daylights out of them. There's always something you can do to negate the influence being exerted at you if you know how to exert the influence in the first place. If you don't know how to exert the influence in the first place, the best thing you can do is leave the room. Get out of the interaction, because it's only a matter of time. The longer you interact, the more likely you are to move towards agreement. And those of you who've been to Killer Influence and been through the drills, we show you that that is a physics principle, not a psychological one. Okay? The persuasion that you're learning is as reliable as the laws of physics. Okay? Yes, there's actually the very first self-care component I ever put in an influence program was Killer Influence, and there's a whole chapter on self-work and self-programming. So yeah, Killer Influence more so than the CPI systems, which we'll talk about at a different webinar. Let's see here. Okay, anybody else? Let's see. Alley Cat is saying, I keep thinking I might not learn something, but as always, learning more and more every time I'm around you. Thanks as always. I almost always feel guilty for all these gold nuggets you're giving out, but I'm pampering myself. Allie's one of our platinum members. She's joined us for a whole years at a time. So she can tell you, she's probably a great success story if you're interested in just what these technologies can do for you on an interpersonal level, as well as a personal level. And we have a bunch of people online who are, feel free to share. Right. All right. So any other questions before I turn you loose? I'm going to go through that offer one last time, and then I'm going to head off into the great beyond. Let's see. Sergio says, I know is no topic, but what would be your recommend on healing course? For you, Sergio, I would start with identity by design, jump into regression, and then vibrational influence, or vibrational healing specifically. Those would be the best three. We don't have a vibrational healing class scheduled for 2020, but we do have the Hidden Laws of Attraction class coming up June 5th through the 7th, and that will have a remote healing component because it's based on manifestation, which you can manifest healing. So we're going to be teaching some remote healing and energy healing techniques in there, as well as a lot of self-care work and subconscious reprogramming processes. So if you're interested in healing stuff, that's going to be the soonest one. We also have a 4-day identity by design training coming up August in Las Vegas, and Stephanie can give you the information on that. That's a 5-day course compressed to 4, so expect an intense 4 days, and we'll take you from beginner to unstoppable in those 4 days. You'll be able to hypnotize anyone, anytime, anywhere, and heal the vast majority of things you encounter. That's what it's for. It's a hypnotherapy certification. Is there a live one for the Hidden Laws of Attraction? Right now, it's only virtual. We have no venue set up. We don't have any intentions. I may not teach Hidden Laws of Attraction for another 10 years. I created the course as a digital course back in 2014, 2013. I have never taught the entire Hidden Laws of Attraction system openly to the public outside of that course. This will be the first time that I'm teaching it to a live audience and adding in all the stuff we've discovered since 2013. So there's going to be a lot of things that didn't make it into the original home study course that we created. And the original home study course you'll also get as a bonus is not one course. It's actually 5 courses that I taught to live audiences put together as the Hidden Laws of Attraction. In this upcoming virtual boot camp, June 5th through the 7th, we're teaching the entire thing as one big curriculum. So you'll get the entire process and you'll be able to manifest dramatically crazy things. In fact, there's some people on here who've used like our image cycling techniques and things like that to manifest some crazy stuff. And anybody here use the image cycling processes to manifest something? Type it in the chat. Which 5 are they? Attraction mastery, attractivation, get lucky for life, money magnet mastery, hidden laws of mental dynamics, and then we're adding a new one in this training, which is all about the ultimate manifestation method. We'll also be teaching STEMS technique for uncovering and reprogramming beliefs, procrastination blaster, and how to do interrogative affirmation, which is state control and interrogative affirmation, which is a new way of doing affirmations that allows you to manifest things faster. And we'll probably do spinning too. Can you use these techniques remotely? Yes, you can. In fact, a lot of my Zoom students are discovering that a lot of this Jedi woo-woo state control stuff that they thought only worked in the seminar room works dramatically well over a Skype connection, even with the video off. So we've actually got people on video now who are doing this stuff on people with the video off, and they're having dramatic effects. It's amazing. It really, we call what we do Jedi school, right? And we call it, when we teach you about these things, we call it seeing the matrix. So, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed bringing it to you. Please, grab one of those last seats. I want to work with you personally in July. If you have any questions, please reach out to Stephanie at 858-282-4663. You can also reach her at Stephanie@nlppower.com. That's Stephanie@nlppower.com. We do have a few bonus seats left for the Hidden Laws of Attraction course. If you're interested in that, Stephanie can answer your questions. And if you had a great time, please tell people, come back and see us again. I look forward to working with you. And good night and God bless. Have a great night.